No, I don't
know,
know.
honey.
Can you hear us now?
Yep, now I can hear you guys.
Hey, look at that.
Chief.
All right.
Technology.
5 stars for the tech crew. All right. Okay, let's start the meeting over here. I'm kidding.
Then in regards to the wastewater facility, they plan on working through the winter there and ramping up in the spring.
Let me back up though on this requested action. Are you asking at the December 7th meeting, task order approval and December 20th meeting? Are you want to revisit this or you want approval of what are you looking for there on that?
Good question, Danny. So what I'm looking for is just a bring forward cost to the board on the 20th.
Was it really necessary to remove this? That's going to be a lion's share of money to remove that island coming in on is that Maine?
Yeah, wasn't there some talk about there's difficulty turning out of the rental place there? Can we take a left-hand turn out of there?
Well, I think the primary reason is it's become a maintenance headache.
Yeah, and they take that light post
because people keep hitting it.
Right, but if we leave the light post out, then there's no maintenance there.
And they'll probably hit it for sure.
Well, it sounds like the biggest thing is you're going to gain a turn for when people go into the hockey arena.
Apollo.
Yeah.
And without the lighting, people are going to run into it. So you either have to keep them, you keep the meeting, and you got to keep the lighting.
Oh, yeah.
Well, when the light got hit, nobody hit it. That tree, right? When the light got removed, when somebody hit the light, it's been sitting for almost a year before, with no light there, and nobody's hit the tree.
It's lit. There's still a bank of lights on it.
There's 2 lights.
Wasn't there a speed thing there? That part?
Is there 2 sets of lights on there?
Yeah, there was.
Together.
There's light, tree, light.
Tree, yeah, but the tree is still there. And but we haven't made it through winter yet. People
Well, it's been there for 10 years.
How long the light posts get knocked down once a year. Maybe we just haven't, maybe they haven't come in to visit.
Do you have a cost estimate on how much it would be to remove it?
Oh, probably in that.
20 to 25,000.
I was thinking 5 to 10, but
I'll go with that.
Yeah, because it's
originally
concrete
mentioned
removal.
25,000 because of the lights and everything else that was in there when we originally discussed it, and that's where I was kind of.
Yeah, well, and I think you just, you need to pull some of those lights out. I mean, the thing is that it's not a significant design lift. You can alternate bid it so you would know what the price is.
Sure. That would work.
And so, yeah, that's what we would do. We would base bid last year's stuff with some minor modifications, and then alternate bid the turn lane, and then the
Well,
median.
turn lanes, absolute. I get that because that I got nothing on that. I got nothing on the sidewalk stuff because it's all safety issue. This has been in. It was cost a pretty penny of taxpayers' money to put it in over the years ago. That was back on our seat, and now we're going to pull it out. And that's where I'm like, well, I get if somebody's hitting it, what can we do to either, maybe not fix that deal, or do we have to replace that light every time they hit it? I don't know.
I think the intent was when they put it in there, the way I remember you explained it, Bob, was to kind of slow traffic down as it's coming into town.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like
We used to have a light, what was it?
I got the timer
I
on.
didn't
You got
set
the
it.
timer on. All right, well, they're gonna
That's
provide, you're gonna get
6:42.
us, you're gonna quote it, how much it's gonna be with the turn lane, keeping it in there, taking the lights out.
Sound good.
And if we do all the blacktop at the same time, I imagine we could use,
Yeah.
be able to have trucks coming in already, and stuff like that, which saves some cost on it.
Yeah,
If we
economies of scale, that's what you shoot for.
Are we done with that one?
I think so.
So the only thing I got, the comprehensive plan thing, Bob had sent an email saying that attendance was lackluster, for lack of a better term. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah.
And that the idea was, or the encouragement was, that we would, or either individually or collectively, we would try and garner some kind of support and or enthusiasm for that. You were there.
I was there, yeah, I was
What-
sitting next to Bob.
What are your thoughts? Because we've heard mixed reviews, right?
I mean, I guess I was there for that one. It seemed like it was kind of like a school presentation style. They were kind of going over how they wanted to, it seemed like it was an education. There wasn't a lot of people there, but I mean, it was. So it was a Wednesday night, Tuesday night. There was food provided, there was snacks and all that good stuff, so.
It's still on.
No, it seemed like everyone was still doing their work. The people that were there, I mean, there was 8 people or 8 or 9 people that were there. The ones that were there seemed like they were engaged in what they were doing.
So do you have, Bob, do you have suggestions of things that could be done or should be done or relative to that specific activity?
Yeah,
No, no. Well, it's on your thing, right?
yeah, well,
Yeah, I think it's good. I think, you know, maybe it'll be helpful if, you know, one of us from the board does show up there and just kind of say, because, you know, for those folks that are down there working on it, you know, it's good for them to know that, hey, the guys that are actually gonna be, guys and gals, are gonna be instituting our plans are actually here and they wanna hear it. So I mean, it was good to stop in. So I think, you know, we want to work as a board together to tag team, at least stopping in there and saying hi or something like that. And being seen, I think that's helpful. But I don't know how that's really gonna get them. We'll get a better result out of the people that are there. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and even to that end, it might be individually posting if people are on Facebook and they want to share that, is to share that stuff from our standpoint through our friends and people that were involved with, say, hey, just as a reminder, this is going on. It's something for you to,
I guess
be a part of it.
the other option is we do have the YouTube channel now. We're on the interweb, you know, at Village, Somerset, Wisconsin, or I think it's abbreviated. But we can, I don't know, could we use the OWL and record those sessions and I could put those on YouTube? I don't know, maybe that could, I mean, it's free.
Why not?
Mhm.
Is there
Well,
any
somebody-
concern on that?
Can you bring that over to the library and set that up and get it recording? Or I can help out too.
Actually, I think the library has an owl as well.
Do they? Look at that.
Mhm.
So maybe we could talk to them. I mean, they
Mhm.
kind of, we're all in the village, right?
Right.
We're all village people here.
Yeah.
So maybe they could help out. We could record it. And then if you guys get me the recording, I'll post it on YouTube. That'll help.
Donnie, you asked about legal, you know, if it's a record, you're gonna have to retain it, you know, it's government record. If it's a official government, you know, Village of Somerset YouTube page, you'll probably want to figure out what your policy is on comments ahead of time. Whether you're gonna allow all comments or no comments, that's even the way it goes, so.
I think BK is.
I have been,
To leave them open.
so the comments are on, but the comments are, I have it so it'll flag potentially. It's got like the computer filter on it, so in case. Bad things in the comments.
Sure.
And it'll review and it'll kick those over to review. Currently, it's under my Somerset. Official email. So I'm the only one that at this time has access to it. I can give access to whoever. All I'm using it for right now is just posting the videos.
Yeah, and I would just say, you know. Once you allow comments in a government forum like that, you just can't start deleting comments, you know, unless there's a really good reason, you know, if it's obscene material, for example. I'm dealing with something up north where a government official deleted comments that he didn't like because they were targeting him and the way he did his job, and so he deleted them. And he's in the process of getting sued.
So
So
I think.
that's
No
why I just want to make
comments.
sure that the village is It might be something for a future agenda item,
Okay,
but it, just. I guess if you have questions from the First Amendment perspective, if there's something questionable, please give a call for.
yeah, I guess I am all in favor of this public comments and First Amendment rights, so. as long as it falls-
If you don't wanna listen to it, read it, don't.
Yeah, no, and I wasn't planning on commenting on anything as far as that goes, but I thought it'd be good to leave the comments up and have people exercise their.
Yep,
First Amendment rights.
let's look at adding that to the board meeting minutes or board meeting agenda for this month, since it is a short time frame with that thing, so that we can just discuss it and make a decision at the time, so that way we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, and on top of it, I
Regarding
agree.
the comments or not?
Yeah, the use of the YouTube channel and comments.
Yeah, I didn't want there, thank you for the question, Donnie, and I just didn't want a case to pop up.
No.
And even though, it's, yeah.
No,
sometimes
I
it's the-
appreciate it. And that's probably good. I did actually think when I was setting it up, I was like, I need to call you about this and see what it is, because honestly, it was driven from the fact that I heard from a lot of people in the town, it'd be great to see the meetings, just be able to watch them somewhere. And then we got this sweet owl. It isn't working right now because of the internet, but I thought it'd be great to post a video, so.
Still.
It is working. I
Okay.
just turned the TV.
Okay, so it was the first YouTube channel I ever made, but
It does help.
but it is made under my the village address, so.
Okay.
And I can give control to anyone or the passwords and all that stuff. I don't need to run it either. But-
Yeah, I wasn't trying to be a wet blanket there.
No.
So if somebody wants, well, it'll be on YouTube, so it's somewhere, and they won't have to get like. Yeah, okay.
Let's put this on the agenda.
Yeah, we'll talk more about.
Would it be
in 2
best for me
weeks.
to turn the comments off then for now
No.
until we?
No, I think we've got an agenda item. We'll talk about it on the agenda.
I think as long as you don't delete anything.
Yeah, it's an all.
I did, right.
I know, that's what I'm not,
Yes or no?
I'm not planning on doing anything. Like I said, there's just one filter on there that says if you want to keep specifically explicit things out of the chat, which I thought was probably a good idea.
Well,
For example, if someone says that village attorney is a POS, you leave it up, because that's fair game.
Yeah.
So if they post some inappropriate obscenity.
Obscenities, and it could be flagged.
I mean obscenity in terms of like pictures of, stuff that.
Yeah, I'll use that,
Then
so
you can, then that's okay. but-
I will use the First Amendment as my guide for any
Thanks.
type of filtering.
Thanks.
that needs to be done.
Alright.
And I'll consult you.
Anything else on the memo?
No one, I guess, Matt, unless you have any questions?
So I have another question. So fence, that's all we can get. Or did I get ahead of you, Todd?
The
Sorry.
next
It's on
agenda.
agenda.
Okay, all right, okay.
Next item, discussion professional services agreement, Main Street Bridge Design Amendment number 1.
Yeah, so, per the direction of the board, at the last meeting, there was a desire to look at what it would take to alternate bid. A railing, a steel railing, in lieu of the fence. And we talked to some of our bridge people and, just from a perspective of, the galvanized steel getting nicked up during plowing and, people using it and just some of the great expense of it. We're just recommending at this point, Bob articulated it quite well in the memo to the board, that, we're recommending you just go forward with, an attractive poly-coated chain link fence.
I think that's a contradiction in terms of myself. I do, I think that's an oxymoron. I also believe, and Bob, how easy is it for equipment to get in to plow that sidewalk?
Now,
Yeah,
Very limited.
and how's it gonna be if we put how did you refer to it? I'm
So
sorry.
the steel railing.
No, the
attractive poly-coated.
attractive
Yeah.
poly coating, how is it gonna be at that point?
It'll be exactly the same.
Railing or with the fence?
Yeah, well, either one.
The fence is not gonna hitters with a railing, is gonna shorten it up, it's gonna make it
Cause
that much more difficult for us.
we're at 50 inches right now, right? Give or
Somewhere in
take.
that, yeah, we have a
So-
48-inch snow blower, which gives us about a half an inch on both sides. And that's.
So if we
us
had
pumping into it, and then-
cut, if we had, we could fabricate something, fabricate a snowboard or something like that.
This fabricated.
It's fabricated already, it's already bolted together. We just trim it up a little bit.
You know, and you.
So what would the railing be down to what would the walkway be down to if we had the railing, the exact amount? We'd go from 50 to what? 50 inches to 46
Well, that's
inches?
really a design question, but we would have to shift that over from where it is now. I think what I wanted to say was at 6 inches, they would have to move it in.
6 to 8.
Yeah. And you know, it's just the cost is prohibitive too, when you're looking at a bridge with whatever, you know, 20, 30 years of life left in it as well. If you spend $350,000 or what have you on railing.
Well, 20 to 30 years, I think is subjective based on
Yeah.
how well we take care of it. So I've heard that 20, 30 years, but I've also heard that it could last 100 years if we take care of it. So that's why I'm saying that's what I'm thinking. Todd and I are kind of thinking like, well, this bridge is gonna be around, just take care of it. Focal point of our city.
It's the entrance to the city, right? Yeah. I mean, we're putting forth, I think, and maybe this is the wrong thing to do it with. But there isn't anything coming in from that end of town coming this way, right? Where you come past Dairy Queen or past the Quick Trip that says Somerset, right? Nothing.
So you're proposing.
And so I'm not proposing anything. What I'm merely pointing out is that when I went over the bridge, water, obviously the new one, right? That is not, to me, a design tragedy. Chain link fence, on the other hand.
Well, one thing to think about or look at is even from the picture is how much the fence do you see? Like if you're driving, you're going through it, it's about the same height as the railing. That's there now. So it's not like it's standing 4 feet above it where you see all this ball field fence hanging there. So it's something, how much do you really see it? It's a question and a statement is how much you see it, where are you going to see it from? Is it a nice or not? That's maybe a personal opinion. I mean, we do have nice looking railings and nice steel or concrete, I should say, girders, if you will, along there. So from my standpoint, I think it's fine. That's my opinion. You know, whatever other people think is different. The question I had in regards, part of that is I know we have a sidewalk on both sides. And I don't know, it's probably way cost prohibitive. Is it something that would be able to remove one of the sidewalks and make one of them wider to have a railing brought into it and make that work? Or is that just based on the design that's currently, it's just not an option either?
I don't believe that's an option.
Okay.
You know, and one of the things that our bridge folks too just really discourage with the railing is that, you know, as it gets chipped, or, you know, kids, bikes or whatever scrapes it, and you scrape out that paint, you know, then it's gonna start to rust, and that's gonna be, you know, more of a maintenance headache. So if you narrow it up, the more likelihood things are gonna bounce into it, whether it's public works or kids or whomever. And, you know, that's just gonna increase the amount of maintenance and, you know, ongoing costs with the
Chain link fence don't do that then?
not, well, we won't have it as wide and, you know, you won't have a, you know, a bigger part, so. And you've had good luck with that. You've got your money's worth out of that existing fence. And, you know, as much, you know, it's, we'll design it, but I just don't recommend it. You know, I think you should stick with that. Holly, and that's the recommendation from our rich people.
So we got 100-year-old eyesore is what we're saying. In your opinion.
In my opinion, if we're gonna put a bunch of money into refurbishing a bridge, right? And there's also kind of a parallel push or want, if you will, in the community for us to make Somerset clean it up, right? For lack of a better way of putting it, just generally clean it up. And in today's day and age, you either go with quaint or you go with modern, right? Anything in between, less than good, I guess.
And we
So-
still, and part of that is we still have some of that bridge money. I know I keep coming back to the bridge money, but we have this fund for the bridge. And
Which is to replace the bridge when it's to that point, not spend extra money on amenities for the bridge.
Well, I mean, we're not putting in restaurants and hot dog stands, right? We're kind of talking about what the entry, at least one major artery coming into the village looks like.
Well, it's in the center of the village, just to clarify, right? It is a center because the village entrance is up the road, up the road. Up the road, up the road, so it is in the center.
Well,
Kind of like the heart,
allow me to
But it
read.
kind of like the heart,
Town area.
the heart in
Yeah.
the center, like the heart.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We want
that's-
it to look good, and I think it is a personal opinion from everyone's standpoint of what looks good and what doesn't. You know, again, I'll say that I don't think that the black, when it's coated, that it looks that bad. I don't think it actually looks real bad at all, especially if you're not seeing it. As you're driving down, you're not driving right next to a chain link fence.
well, but the other part of that is we're gonna be doing a lot of trail work here coming up, and there's gonna be a lot more foot traffic. A lot more foot traffic with the trails that are gonna be connecting all the way up to SMC and all the way around Dairy Queen and all that, so there will eventually be more foot traffic.
I'm not saying this is a hill to die on. I'm saying that the considerations for what the village, how the village presents itself, right? You want to say it's coming into the downtown artery? Perfect. We'll go with that.
And that's fine, it's semantics. I think also one thing just to consider from the standpoint of is, do we have other things to spend money on? Granted, we do have its bridge fund, but as Andrew did say, that is they're meant to replace a bridge, granted it's 20, 30 years, but well, things don't go down in price. So we have to assume that that money is going to be even more and more to replace the bridge. And I don't know what's a bridge like that expected to be for a cost, even like if you had to replace it today, what would the approximate cost be on that?
Oh. Was it? Yeah, it was in the millions, yeah, 3 million.
So we've got what, 1.4, is that what you said?
Well, you spent some of that 1.4, or is that what you?
That was
funded
1.4 after spending.
After spending?
Mhm.
Well, in 14 years, at 7% interest, we've got $3 million in there now.
We've had it for that many years.
No, I'm just saying, at 7% interest, we got it covered.
Mhm.
So
It's just something to consider. It's not an end all be all either, but it's just.
What I'm suggesting is we're gonna spend the time to shut the bridge down for how long? So essentially, we have an opportunity, right? It's like we have an opportunity anytime we feel like it for refurbing that, right? So this is an opportunity. I don't feel like we're looking for new and interesting ways to blow money. What I'm thinking about is if we're trying to improve the appearance, right, of the village as a general statement, then this is something I think that is, I don't know that it's critical, but I think it's important to at least consider it. And at this point, and again, I go back to the Stillwater Bridge, they didn't put chain link up on that.
Is there anything that I can provide this board to help? You know, maybe some pictures, or do you want, I don't know if people want to drive it by the 20th. And kind of look and see how much you see of the chain link, or you don't see it, or maybe you've all taken a critical look at it already, but is there anything I can provide to help,
Well, I
help
think,
this board make a decision?
I think one of the things that I had hoped for was that we would get visual alternatives, right? So in other words, something in addition to the chain link to consider. Now, if it's $1 million to do something, right? That's obviously not going to happen. And I don't know where that line is relative to we would or we wouldn't, right? From a financial position. If I'm the only one that thinks that this is right, that this is kind of a sticking point, then by all means, right, I'm on voice.
Yeah, I mean, you do have the you know, in the bridge account, you do have the extra 150, 200,000 to do it.
The chain link.
No, well, in addition, the chain links that, and then
The chain
the
link,
railing would be in addition, would be an additional 150, 200,000.
the chain link right now. Estimate, 150 grand, 200.
Yeah, I was in that range, yeah. And then we double that for the railing. And so, you know, it's a significant expense, and it's too bad you didn't have that access to maybe do some other sort of beautification project for $150,000 goes, you could do some nice signage or, you know, what have you.
So I'll leave this up.
What if we put some of that? We put some of that stuff in there, some of that. I know it's not much better, but we could put some of those like plastic tubes in there that they slide in there or something like
slats?
that. Yeah,
That's just gonna keep people from seeing the river. I
I
mean,
think
one
that
of-
actually looks worse.
yeah, I would agree with that, right?
I
I
mean,
mean,
it's a
there's-
thought, but I don't know that.
No, it's
Because you
okay.
have it
It's
across
okay
from
to-
SMC, right?
Tell me it sucks. All right.
Stop.
It's across from
It is a
SMC,
great
right?
idea.
That,
Go ahead.
Wing Miles said had that.
Yeah.
That's right.
Woodstock.
No, not Woodstock.
Woodstock's got it though.
Oh, do they as well? Well, I'm thinking the one that's on the east side of LeGrand, or the white building, they have the white slats or the white tubes in there, I think.
It's just like the one south of with the slats.
That's exactly.
All right.
Yeah,
Are you
we
tired?
provided some
It's already
estimates.
there.
Are we at 14 minutes yet?
Yeah, we're at like
57
an
seconds.
We got 57 seconds.
You know, I could talk to our landscape architects too and say, maybe there's some enhancements to the chain link that could be done.
Sure.
Like at each post, you can put like a.
Yeah,
fancy-
I'll talk to somebody that.
Fancy post stop on there.
maybe a spot where they could put some more.
That's kidding.
Okay.
All right.
Meet me in the middle here. Come on, just in the middle.
Hey, I'd love to design more stuff.
All right. Anything else that, I think we've kind of beat that up for enough and give him some ideas on stuff that he can bring to the meeting in 2 weeks, and
Yeah, that works.
we can.
We will need a decision though, if we want to
Right.
bid this.
Yep. Okay.
So you can bring some visuals, you said?
Yeah, I'll talk to my landscape architect.
All right, next item, discussion filling pond on amphitheater property according to the DSM.
That was 14 minutes.
Where do we have? Bob, did you want to talk on this one? Or is that, oh, it's still addressed? Yeah, yeah.
You're talking about in this report?
There's certain size opening.
Huh? Okay, so I got some questions about that.
Okay.
I just read this report. It says that there was a permit, the work was being done without a permit. Right? But in the MSA, it says that reviewed property owners plan to fill in dry pond. No apparent concerns from an engineering perspective. Improvements to the property will likely necessitate revising the CSM for either a new pond located elsewhere or to accommodate a larger pond. So if a property owner has a pond on a CSM that's meant for water drainage going into that, to prevent it from going into another person's property. And they fill that in and the water runs off, or they do that without a permit, how do they go about getting a permit?
So right now, there's no pond on the CSM. There's an old site plan that showed the pond, but the CSM that was never filed.
The CSM that I had back when it was under Johnson Properties, when they redone the roads going back up into my old property. That CSM had a drainage pond on there, and it was on the pond that you had sent to me.
This is the CSM for Mike Johnson. The site plan that showed the pond.
Well, I get back to it, that they're saying that they needed a permit. and it was being done without a permit?
Correct.
So. What? If they were supposed to get a permit, what was that, what's the process there? You just do it and then get a permit later?
I talked to EJ, so you need to stop. Say, okay, so I understand what you're doing, and if you bring our water resource team in to review this, and they did. And
That was the email that you had sent to me, right?
Right.
Okay, I never seen any response back on that. From anybody.
okay,
I just seen the one that you asked them to review that, but I never seen the.
so my email, I was that was kind of my response to you on the entire board. Through that,
On this one,
yes.
that there's no apparent. Water runoff on this property,
There if there's going to be, it's not apparent that there'll be any water runoff onto any other property. For them filling that in. Right.
well, where's all that water gonna go?
It'll just sheet flow and, you know,
Yeah, there's
infiltrate.
there's a.
Sorry?
portion on the bottom.
That was all graded to run into that drainage pond, and this is the CSM that I'm referring to. That was put in back when they.
But it was graded to drain to that because of a potential hotel going in.
Well, I understand it, but they didn't change the grade.
Right, but you have a lot more water coming off of a building than you do off of just the land that's there, that's already gonna be absorbing some. Versus having a concrete or a pavement surface where everything's going off of it, so you're gonna get a lot of that that's gonna stay in the land. You don't necessarily need a drainage pond, or please correct me if I'm wrong, but that's been my understanding of that. Is simply from the standpoint of.
Well, the previous owners of that were told that they couldn't mess with that drainage pond.
I'm not aware of that.
That was Bruce Blargen and those guys that owned it before these guys bought it. Bruce Blargen owned it, and then Montpettit bought it, and now
Dan Blargen, I believe, is who you're trying.
or Dan Blargen, yeah.
In his permit, no disturbance over 1 acre. If over 1 acre, then DNR permit is needed. Owner agrees that if problems or issues arise from this graded project, that a pond will be designed and constructed at owner's expense within 3 months of occurrence of any drainage issues. Seeding needs to be applied in spring 2023 for vegetation growth.
So right now, that's not in a drainage and utility easement.
Pardon?
That's not in a drainage and utility easement. You look at that CSM, right?
Well, this drainage pond was in here before they were putting that hotel in there. Before there was talk about putting that hotel in there.
So. What?
But that pond was actually in.
What would you like? For a conclusion of this, what?
Is that wet? Is it wetlands? First off,
It's a man-made dry pond.
okay.
Yep.
And they filled it in without getting a permit.
Correct.
And they don't need one.
They have one now.
They have one now,
Yes.
but they didn't need one when they filled it in.
He didn't know that he needed one.
So, just from permitting perspectives, did the village issue a permit or did he go get his DNR permit?
He didn't need a DNR permit.
It was less than an acre?
Correct.
Okay. So a lot of times, occasionally businesses will engage in work, site work, for example, where they disturb soil. With the DNR, you see it where they might go a little over an acre. The DNR says you needed a construction stormwater permit. So then they apply for an after the fact permit. They ensure that the runoff will not go off-site or won't be discharged unlawfully. And they get their permit after the fact. Just because they engage in the work doesn't mean they don't get the permit after the fact if they meet the standards.
And so the standards are that this language that you just wrote up or that you just read, where is that?
That was what I wrote with EJ. I said, this is what.
But that's not in your report though, or is it, I mean, is that something that you can send out to us? So we have that, because I'm afraid that water is gonna run off of there, gonna run off into another drainage pond. And the other drainage pond would be the one that's down, would be farther west. Down behind, you know, and will that be able to carry all of that water runoff from that one area? I lived up there for 20 years. I've seen it, the water fill up into that pond several times. So I'm familiar with that area, and that's why I'm asking why we're filling up a pond like that. That's been sitting there for years, as long as I could remember. I thought the process would have to be in front of, some other people to make sure that there was engineering standards to understand how much water runs off of there, goes into that pond, where it would go after that. But if you guys are saying that's all been done, then so be it. I just need to see where that's at.
Is that the CSM?
This is the change one, isn't it?
No, that's the CSM. No, that other one is a site plan.
This one.
Yes, it was never put, that pond was never put on the CSM. That was just a site plan, which is shown before you do any work. Yeah, and I think that's because that was because they were gonna put a hotel in there and that was gonna be paved. And that didn't happen, right?
Correct.
We don't see an issue. We envision it just soaking into the ground like any turf area.
And it will be seeded in the spring. Cool. You good, Donnie?
Yeah, like I said, I've spoken to these.
Anything else? All right, next we'll move on to public safety and public comment. I guess we already did that, but I'll just ask again if you want any public comment on public safety items. Anyone online raising their hand at all? Okay. First up, discussion DAC impound agreement.
I got a question. So this organization, is this like a Field of Dreams type thing? And if we build it, they'll sign? No, seriously, like, why would anybody go drop a bunch of money building a kennel? Was it $1 million or something? Maybe it was in the email that we got. But it seemed to be a significant investment. Was there agreements already that we were gonna go down this road?
This company is who does our animal control service currently.
So they just want us to sign a new and improved contract with them?
What if we do a contract every year with them, correct?
Yeah.
It talks about, yeah, the impound and all comply, housing shelter, and care of the animals. What did they charge when they pick up the animals? It's just a contract for impound.
But I think it's shown that these are part of the services that they offer within the contract. One of the things that we may want to look at and talk about doing is what we charge, if any, for animals that are impounded, boarding fee to recover some of those costs or things that we have.
What is the current policy?
So in the ordinance that we would recoup it. I think Will's trying to talk.
So I can weigh in here, guys. I think 2 years ago we started contracting with Daryl Hall's company, Dedicated Animal Control or something similar. I forget what his company name is, but we use Daryl's services on a case-by-case basis. Previously, we had a less than ideal temporary pound down at the Public Works facility that just became really obsolete and wasn't really adequate for our needs. And this was kind of a bridge to help facilitate some of the off cases that we get. Most of the time when we get a lost dog, we'll bring it back to the PD with us. We'll make a post on Facebook and it's recovered within 24 hours. There's other incidences where we get stray cats like a litter of kittens, aggressive dogs, maybe some animal humane issues where we would seek Daryl Hall's services for. It looks like this is just like an updated contract. It looks like he has purchased or contract with some type of facility. His rates are in the packet that you guys have. And essentially, we would recoup our costs. He charges a recovery fee that's listed in there, and all that stuff kind of goes through him. For example, if he recovers a dog and he gets dispatched out and he releases it to the owner, he'll charge the owner like the $30 fee or whatever it is. In that case, we don't get charged. We get charged in cases where there is no owner, there's a stray cat, he takes it to some type of shelter after a 7-day period, and then we would be kind of on the hook for some fees. But regardless, we would have to facilitate that whether or not Daryl Hall's involved or not. And this is just a lot easier than our officers taking care of this who have limited to no training and animal control stuff.
From my standpoint, in 2.5 years, I haven't heard any real negative stuff about it. Nothing been reported through to indicate that there's a problem. The services have been helpful to the village. I don't, I mean, I think it's nice that he's got a new pound that he can do versus driving farther or dealing with things. And where were they going before, Joel? After we got rid of the one here, was that down to Hudson?
I'm sorry, I missed that, Doug. Are you saying we transported dogs down to Hudson?
That's what I was asking. Where did we transfer for a pound after we closed one with the public work?
We've used that up right up until the end. So
Didn't Daryl bring it to the Humane Society?
You're.
Yeah, Elmer ran service through the Humane Society.
Okay, so it was through the Humane Society then. So. Any other questions or comments on that? The service or contract? All right. Next up, discussion police chief reports.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot for department activities. We had an instructor come in and train everybody in less lethal shotgun training. So we're now able to utilize that as a less lethal alternative. 5 out of 7 of us are now EMR certified. That stands for Emergency Medical Responder. It's certainly a level up of training than we get in the academy for medicals. Being in kind of a rural atmosphere where we don't have a full-time fleet or ambulance service. I think it was important for our guys to have some intimate knowledge of how to handle some medium to critical care incidents. So that was almost an 80-hour course put on through Northwood Tech, and they just completed that this month. And then we had 2 officers, Officer Blumberg and Officer Jared Kerber, complete their field training officer program, and now they'll be training in our new employees.
Sorry. Any other comments or questions for the chief on the reports? Right. Thank you, sir. Next up, discussion November incident reports.
Yes.
248. So part of what we've seen in past months.
I'm seeing a lot of stuff on Sunrise Drive. What do we got going on Sunrise Drive?
Aren't they juveniles that like one call
Lots
after
of-
another?
Yeah, not 911 hang up, a sexual assault,
We got,
juvenile complaint.
you got 3 of them right in a row.
Yeah,
I mean, like literally.
disorderly
1
conduct.
minute apart, yeah.
Is there something going on Sunrise Drive that we, yeah, juvenile complaint. We need to be doing,
We don't really control
Area or-
where incidents happen. A lot of those are dispatched calls. It's not necessarily officer initiated. So, I mean, we respond to where we're needed.
Yeah.
is there, but there's not we need to be overly concerned about though, right? Or
Correct.
anything we can help with, I guess. Anything we can provide as a board to help you deal with the stuff that's going on Sunrise Drive.
The schools are on, by the way.
No, not really, not at this time.
One of the busiest roads, yeah. Yeah, when there's a 315 right at school, or whatever. All right. Anything else as far as incident reports and comments section? All right. Next, we'll move into finance personnel, public comment, 2 minutes per person. Anyone raising their hand on that one? Okay, seeing no one looking to talk here. Go to discussion of the holiday gathering.
I asked to have this put on the agenda because I didn't know if there was something that's been done in the past for not only necessarily the staff, but you know, anybody after the holidays, or if they just all kind of go back to their own thing. I'm a firm believer in getting together and recognizing the staff and having a little bit of Christmas cheer at least once a year. It's usually what happens around this time of year, and I don't know if this has been something that's been tabled or has been done in the past, but if it has been tabled, I'd like to know why and whether or not it can't come back.
Bob,
So
You're gonna have a village holiday party? Is that what you're?
Well, I'm
We were
excited to
criticized
start in a holiday
previously for using taxpayer money.
Sorry?
We were criticized previously for using taxpayer money to celebrate the holidays with staff.
Okay.
So
So
It went
what did
away.
it cost?
ballpark.
$500 maybe.
I'll donate my check for the month of December for a holiday party for $500, and then there won't be any taxpayers' money being utilized for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm sorry, it was yours first.
I'm sorry, you're gonna have to speak up to the deaf guy.
You're paid by the taxpayers.
Yeah, but that's my money.
Yeah.
It's not,
Yeah.
it's not necessarily, so if I donate my pay, then it wouldn't be an issue anymore.
What do other jurisdictions do in this regard?
This. Party question I've ever had.
There'll be many more.
You know,
for sure. For the year.
I don't recall ever getting asked.
go to one.
Well, no one, well, that's your joke, but. Attorney going. No. Fine,
It's not just for the staff, it's for everybody here. I mean, it's a matter of, you know, it's a matter of us getting together outside of the realm of this. Not necessarily to talk business, but to just be one with, you know, the holiday season.
And say thank you.
I think it's a big thank you.
I mean, Yeah,
I would get
I think, you know, if there's gonna be serving of Christmas cheer, you know. should be done
That's subject to-
responsibly.
That's subject to the bartenders and their licensing agreements on that kind of stuff, not necessarily. I'm not bringing the bottles in here for you guys to consume, so you don't have to worry about that.
The only thing I would caution on it, and I'm not saying not to do it, because I think it's great to show appreciation to the staff and everything, is obviously making sure there isn't business discussion that goes on because of public meeting and having the public opportunity to be present.
Sure.
So that would just be the one thing that caution, and if anyone did, just kind of stop.
You're talking about everyone too, right? The boys down at the shop too? Over
Yeah.
come to the party too?
Bob, do you think there would be interest with those guys too?
Yeah. You guys wanna come? They would wanna hang out with us, would they?
Couldn't answer on that.
I'm not necessarily saying I'm gonna be able to make it. I'm saying that it's a matter of, you know, so I can't say I'm gonna be here because my work is gonna take me out for the holidays, but it's something that I need to at least acknowledge, not only for the staff, but what all of us that come in and do this time here is it's not something that I can't, you know, if we just kind of let our hair down for a little while and remember that, you know, we're all human and we need to at least have a little fun too.
Should we do like a New Year's Eve party?
You can do whatever you want.
Should we do
But
that after-
I'm bringing up for discussion because it hasn't been brought up for discussion before. So,
I'm sure people wanna be with their family.
Just you.
Maybe
I can't,
but I wanna be with mine.
I think it's important to at least say thank you, right? We're down here twice a month, 3 times a month, whatever, you guys deal with the fun every single day. I think that's important.
Yeah, can you guys put something, whatever you guys want?
Yeah, can you guys just do some more stuff?
Plan your own party, or you wanna- I was thinking if you guys are acceptable to it, is it would just set up a tab over there. I'll take care of that aspect of it because it's my way of donating back to that, and it doesn't have to be taxpayers' money, but if the board feels so inclined that they wanted to do something on it, that's a matter the board can take up. I'm saying that for me, I'd be willing to set it up right over here because it's local and they keep it in town and guys can do what they want with it. If they want to show up, great. If they don't, well, that's fine too, but at least you've had the opportunity to be said thanks to and have a little, maybe a couple Christmas cheer and shake a hand or give a hug or whatever. And remember that it's, you know, 'tis the season, you know.
Is that something we would need to vote upon to have that authorized that? I mean, if it's not an expense thing from the village standpoint, do we need to?
If it's not something that the village is funding directly, I don't think you need an approval item on it. I think you can organize it and say, hey, on this day, why don't we all try to get together and make it work? I would just say if you do set a date, you might just want to, so you're gonna have something to do. You might want to post a notice just saying there may be a quorum of the board present. It's a holiday get together party at, you know, whichever bar you choose.
And the folks could come down too. People could come down, the village people, come hang out too.
And the reason I brought that up is just from the standpoint of obviously our meeting is the 21st, so that gets 2 additional weeks versus waiting up until that point to try and get an approval or have something that.
So you're suggesting that we put it on the agenda for the next board meeting and then we schedule it for post-Christmas,
No,
but
I'm not
use
scheduling
Christmas
that.
as a,
I'm not suggesting that. What I was asking is if it had to be put there or not. If it doesn't, then I'm saying that's good to know so that way it can just be done in advance. We don't have to do it unless we want to take and have the board.
I guess it really kind of comes down to with the staff and everybody here, if it's something that if everybody's in agreement on, but if everybody's like, you know what, thanks, but I'll just keep my checks. Hey, that's fine too. It's worthy of a discussion. It's worthy to be had. And if you guys are happy with the way status quo is, then I'll pull it back and we'll move on with the next thing. But if you guys want to be recognized and have some kind of an opportunity to celebrate Christmas cheer, I'm willing to throw my check at it and say, you guys go and have fun. That's the question.
That's a very nice gesture, I
Yes.
think, Donna.
Yes, thank you. We could probably put an email out to the departments and see, even maybe just like a day, like after work for a few hours or something like that. See what date works for them, and then the board and.
Like I said, I won't be here. Unfortunately, I'd like to be, but I won't be. So, but it's anyone that, you know, you guys have it, I can arrange it with whatever one you want to go to down here. I'm not particular. You can go to wherever. You just let me know and we'll just. I'll make
a new kitchen in Hawaii.
Huh?
Are you gonna do a new kitchen in Hawaii?
No, in Hawaii?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, I
not-
wasn't sure.
Not today.
I thought maybe for the.
We're working on it.
Right. You guys will send that out and look up what
Mhm.
works. Okay. We'll move on to discussion 2023 budgets, did 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah.
Where does it say when those TIDs are gonna be closing at?
Would not be on there.
I only asked because one just recently closed, so.
Right,
I have that information if you want me to.
yeah, I
It's
do
part of
know the,
TID 3.
TID 3, the expenditure period has ended, it ended in November, so we can't spend any money in that until the month.
But I do have those in my office, I can show you.
Great, thank you.
Might have to help us along a little bit on what you're actually looking at here. For the dummy, you got these TID 3, 4, and 5. These are just, to me, a bunch of papers and numbers. What is it? Are we looking at what money is going into them TIDs?
So it would show, the revenue being collected on the tax levy for each TID, and then,
And then the
Any
money goes back
expenses.
into those TIDs, all right?
yeah,
I mean, okay, so you got 3, 4, and 5.
yeah,
Okay. And it's saying, let's just say 5 for an example, the budget is that there'll be 6,045 in revenue being put back into that district,
that's how much tax is being collected in that district, yes.
and that goes back into that district,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
And then it's got the expenses that were from 22 and 2021.
It's just showing what the history of how much was budgeted previously and how much was spent. So do you mean the 2 columns with the 2? Okay,
Is it?
I'm looking at it sideways.
Okay, so I'm just, that's why I'm asking, because I'm trying to understand these numbers.
So it's
Is-
showing the history and then the current and then the future.
Okay, so if I was looking at 5, because we were on that one, right?
Mhm.
So in 2021, there was 95,000 spent
Mhm,
in that district, right?
yeah,
And another 16,000 in that, leading to 111,565 that was spent in the following year, 56, right? That was
Yep.
spent. And we're budgeting now, it looks like there's some revenue coming in now, right?
Well, and that might have been because I took it off of not just the increment, I think at that time.
Mhm.
So that is the value, it's not the tax increment, so that should probably be 0.
mhm, but it's fine. Yeah, that's the 2022 budget. That's the new district that doesn't have,
Nothing.
it has value. It just doesn't have any TID value yet. So we aren't collecting any tax money on that TID yet
Just something gets built in there.
until there's improvements put in.
So the 60/45 is, that's not, there's no tax, that was the wrong number, what?
That was the wrong number.
Okay, all right. So I'm gonna jump back to the other one then, if we're not
Okay.
talking about, I just
Yep.
wanna be able to understand, so I know what
Right.
we're talking about here, because to me, this is all just a bunch of numbers. Doesn't, you know, I'm trying
Yeah.
to understand it. So you're budgeting, and if we're in 4,
Mhm.
because you got two different numbers on here, you got proceeds. The tax revenue of 108,165.58 in 2022,
Mhm.
and your proposed 68,259.50 in 2023.
Mhm.
Why would that go down?
Again, I think I used that was
The wrong number.
the wrong, there's two different numbers that you get on their form, and they
Okay.
must have grabbed the wrong number. I'm thinking, I'll have to look back at that. So I was taking it from the whole value, so there's a formula I use, and I took it from the whole value, not just what the tax increment value was, and the tax increment. You have a base value when you first get your TID, and then when you start getting stuff in there, that creates a value,
Okay,
and that's the TID increment value.
okay,
And so I took that number from the whole value, not just the increment value.
but that revenue should stay the same, wouldn't it, or would it? Okay,
No.
help me
We
understand.
only, so. The entire TID has a value. The village collects all of the taxes on just the increment. So any improvements that were made once the TID is created. And any increase in value, that's what we collect all of the tax on. So what happened for 2022 is the whole value of the TID, not just the increment value, was calculated for this revenue. Whereas it should have only been the increment. So this number is
Fictitious, or
It's the
it's
wrong-
higher, it's higher than it should be.
it's than what it should have been.
Okay, so in 2022, it really you should have been looking at the actual increases in the
Yeah.
district, right?
Yeah,
And then, so what we're saying is in 2023, you're gonna have X amount of increases in value generating this kind of revenue, is that right?
yes,
Mhm.
yep,
So that number would obviously be, I
it's
understand
not
that that's.
decreasing, it's just the
You're looking
the
at the whole thing.
2022 number
Right,
is
right.
not reflected properly.
Okay,
So those will be changed before the next meeting when we vote on it.
Yeah, we could, I mean,
Yeah.
these are just set, yeah, yeah,
so
and I'm
The-
sure she already checked at that when we did the auditing.
Mhm.
but in 2020, in December 2022, there was other taxes that were collected, 7,000, I'm in 4 yet. 7,262.56, right?
Yeah, let's see what that was, remember?
Is there not any proposed taxes to be collected in 2023?
That's that 60,
Was that land?
68,000.
Was that land that we saw? maybe?
I don't know. I'll look at what that 7,000 is. But
I didn't know if that carries over every year,
No,
you know, like you were saying, because you're
Mhm.
collecting taxes every
Mhm.
year. And that would be, again, invested back into the district, right?
right,
Okay,
right,
because right now what I'm seeing is there was 100 and well, forget the 108,000
Mm-hmm.
because that's gonna get fixed, but whatever that was in 2022 for improvements in that district
mhm,
is obviously not 108, but it's whatever that was, it falls to that bottom line. And there was $150,000 of a transfer to service debt for that
mhm.
2022 budget, right?
And actually, it was more than that because we paid off the debt for TID 4
Sure,
with the money from TID 2. When we closed TID 2.
right. But when you close TID 2,
We don't have that.
TID 2 was be on here?
No, that's done.
No,
Because it was closed.
done, yeah.
Okay,
So I'm thinking that was on the debt. That was on the.
so there's no more debt service on
I
this.
think it was on the debt thing.
Correct,
Okay,
on TID 4.
so all we're gonna have in 2023, to my understanding, what I'm looking at here is just $950 in auditing, but we don't have any taxes that we're collecting in that district anymore.
Oh, you looking at 5?
No,
I'm on
4.
Looking at the second line, the other taxes line.
68,000. I'm not sure what that 7,000 is for other taxes. So I will get back to you on that one before the December 20th meeting.
Because I didn't know if that's going to be every year. You're
Right.
gonna see those taxes that are gonna be falling back into that district every
Yeah,
year.
well,
Not just on the improvements
Right.
of the revenue
But
aspect, but the actual taxes.
The 68,000 is what the tax revenue is
Okay. Okay,
for 2023.
Because we were buying too. Then we were buying too with that.
Tax rate.
Yeah, the tax rate.
so what's the transfer in 327,000 in 2020 about? Because it looks like there was 3 years that money was transferred in and then nothing.
That's to help pay,
That was from TID 2, wasn't it?
yeah,
That was from TID 2.
to help pay for the purchase of creating the TID and the land purchase,
Okay,
and all the costs associated with that.
so we don't know what that actual
Well, we don't
total
want,
value is of
we
that.
don't want to have money transferred in. We want it to create its own money.
Well, that's
but-
why, that's what
So
I'm
it's
asking. for the
basically
revenue.
borrowing money from other funds so that it's, it balances.
So we don't owe that money to anybody. Or that,
Yes,
Through-
there's
so-
other funds that we owe money to, yes. And once the,
but the transfer debt service isn't there anymore. That's what I'm asking. So you got 360, 460, about 510,000 looks like you transferred in over 3 years, right? And we paid off 150,000 of the debt service last year from closing TID. So my question is there any, do we still owe 510,000 to somebody?
no.
Oh.
No, sorry, I was thinking TID 5. This TID has paid everything off.
Okay,
So there's no more transfers in, there's no more transfers out, there's no more debt service.
so it's just,
Everything's paid up.
it's an asset,
Yes,
right? It's
so we're
totally,
collecting
there's
more
no,
tax than we're going to be spending.
okay. So that 68,000 eventually will be
It's just-
adding an asset over the years. And are we keeping track of that every year? So like this year?
Yes,
That
we
TID
have to
four,
trace all of it with the financial statements and auditing.
okay,
every
so
year.
TID 4 is
Every
worth
revenue.
X amount of dollars in 2021. TID 4 is worth X amount of dollars in 2022. TID
Right.
4 is worth X amount of dollars in 2023.
Yeah,
Do we have
that's
those?
not on this report.
Okay. But
That
there,
would be in the audit report.
that's in the audit report, okay.
Mhm.
Each independent TID has that,
Yes,
okay. Thanks for the clarification.
You good, Donnie? I guess does anyone else have questions too? I'm not trying to pick on you or anything.
Hey, you know,
I mean.
I'm just
You're asking a lot of
trying
good
to
questions.
trying to understand,
You're asking
you
a lot of
know.
good questions, so.
caught a couple, things that were questioning my eye here. That's why I had to ask the question.
All right.
So I understand TID 3 is paid off. TID 4 is paid off. And TID 5
it's new.
is
So
new.
There's no value in that,
That's why we're transferring money in.
yes.
All right, we'll move on to the next item. He's such a
Hey.
nice guy. We'll go to the 2023 budgets, water and sewer.
I'm getting the timer going. You get there. You got
Yeah,
it.
I didn't set the time.
You got it. You got it?
Okay, I'm on it now. This is not my
I
water
can
and
do
sewer, not mine, so you're gonna have to ask somebody else.
I can do the watch. I got it on my watch. Go. Stop.
What are we talking about?
You gotta have a timer.
I feel like we should get it done here, so then the board meeting should go bang, bang, bang.
Exactly.
There shouldn't be.
Well, what we're trying to do is just to have it as like a 14-15 minute time frame, so that way if we need more, we can add more time to it, but it's just trying to keep things. where it's
Otherwise, they
not
can
a-
go in circles forever.
Okay, so just make.
But I think what Chris was saying is, let's have the discussion here so that when you get to the board,
Yeah.
there's clarifications that need to be
Right.
made, fine, but it shouldn't be more
the day.
15-20 minute discussions on the same topic.
Shouldn't be.
It should not be.
Yeah, and we were trying to set, when we started this, we do 14.
So are we talking the budgets then or what?
Yeah, sorry.
Yes,
Sorry.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm just asking.
Minute in.
I don't know questions on you.
No.
I'm just that.
I got nothing.
move on to the discussion 2023 holiday schedule.
This is just informational purposes only. It's the board used to approve when the holidays were, but the employee handbook was revised to set if the holiday falls on a Saturday or Sunday, when the holiday is observed. So
So this reflects that.
yes. Yep, so it's just for informational purposes. It's not really anything that needs to be approved.
You guys get Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday.
You guys get all federal holidays, don't you? Nice.
The list is right there.
The list is right here, but.
Well, if they get Martin Luther King Day, right?
Well,
They
there's
should.
It would stand to reason that they get all federal holidays.
Veterans Day, yeah, Veterans Day. Veterans Day.
Which ones don't, I guess?
Columbus.
It doesn't matter.
You don't get Columbus Day.
I got,
You don't
I
call it
got
that
14
anymore.
minutes. Actually, you got 13 minutes.
Indigenous Day.
Whoa, whoa.
I'm gonna do it. Indigenous.
That's.
Hey,
Stay away from that one.
All right.
All right. Let's, that one's done. We'll go on to unfinished business discussion, meeting attendance resolution 2022-11. You want to take this? I know that was one of your, if I believe this is one of your topics, right?
I think we should all be here. That's what I think. That's the beginning and the end of that thought.
Thank you.
I think the closed session in Zoom is a liability. I still think that. If it can't be here, that's fine. If we're going in a closed session, I think the fee gets cut. That's my opinion. Anybody else?
I disagree. I shared my opinion last time we met.
Yeah.
I'm fine with this the way it's written, that it's enabled, you can see us. You know, but taking that out kind of, like I said, I shared my opinion last time.
Any other discussion on that?
So moving forward, this is Jed just saying that if we are going into closed session, you'll be able to go into closed session as long as you have your camera active.
Correct. Great, we'll move on next. Discussion ordinance A-679 Stewart credit. Actually,
A little different than what we originally talked about here on that sewer credit. I see they got a $200 limit on that. I don't know if that was originally $200 limit that was put in there when we talked. Is that something that's just come up or?
Something that was recommended that we put a cap threshold on credits and
we have something that's, you know, that would impact the utility.
It was a one-time deal.
To a certain degree that, you know, we're giving you credit that we don't have to entertain. We're doing that as a gesture of, okay, you had a situation, I understand that. And I'm telling you right now, we're the only community that does options.
We don't have to do it.
We do not have to.
Right.
It was occurred
yeah.
by a former trustee along. So essentially it's the way we have it now is if water goes down your toilet, goes down the drain, you're paying sewer on it. This is saying, okay, you didn't realize your toilet was running, which we have that happen 90% of the time. And I do believe these people that I did not know my toilet and basement was running. So to offer some type of concession, this is saying, okay, now you know you're educated and we will grant you credit. So that's it. Not ever again. Did you get any type of
Right. And we were, I was new on the board at the time when we had that first one, when this was brought up. And what was the amount? Can you recollect my memory on that? It was well over $200 though, I think.
So there, I didn't have any amount in my notes. I pulled the notes, looked at it. And I put in the $200 amount.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that with, so that's a,
So you're suggesting we put a cap, it's up for discussion, right?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I
The
don't- I just-
$200 wasn't in my notes, 300, 400, 500, whatever it may be, 100 is not in my notes.
But it's your suggestion to put up some kind of, because I can't remember what that was, but I want to say it was right around, you know, $200 or $300, you know, and how many times that would happen. I'm not disagreeing because you got SMC or somebody that comes up to you and says, hey, you know, we'd like a $11,000, you know, water credit and, hello, right? You know, so I was kind of, you know, wanted to see this language, so.
yeah. So that's the thought behind it. We have a big user that can come to us and say, well, we want a credit for your policy that it's something that we know there's a cap.
Right, the standard usage, water usage of a residential is what we're really focusing on here, right?
Yes.
And so if we're talking about and focusing on residential usage, I'm not an expert on bills, so maybe somebody might be able to tell me that or not privy to that information, but on a normal residential water bill, is it, you know, a couple $100 a month? I mean, I know mine isn't that much.
It would depend on the user. You know, family of 5 is going to be a lot different than a single person.
Right,
So,
but I average. Is that what I'm looking at here, average wise, would it be a couple $100? So if we're saying, oh, he comes in with a $500 bill, right? And we say, okay, we'll credit you 200, just using this language, $200. Is that going to get what the purpose of what we're trying to get done here? Or the original language right now in the current is that we review it and if the board feels that there was an excess on that, right? They can grant, which that's what happened before, is that Bart made the motion and granted, you know, a credit for that. So we already have that in our system, right?
Mm-hmm.
That they can appeal to the board. Well, how did that get done then?
So the board can choose to make exceptions to the ordinance.
I don't think we're looking at taking a whole entire water bill. We're looking at taking, if your water bill averages $200 a month. And all of a sudden you get a $350 a month water
Or $1,000 water bill for that
Well,
matter. I don't know.
whatever, right?
Yeah.
You're still gonna be paying at least, right, what your normal one is. If it's over and above that, and they're saying they're gonna cap it at $200.
We're saying they're gonna issue a credit for $200. And I think right now, And that's why, is that the board can review these on a case by case scenario, and if they deem fit, right, they've issued credits, right? Because that's what we did before this ordinance was put in
But I
place.
think that's where the lesser 50% that's in there as well, so it's not 200, it's a lesser.
So if it ends up being $103.50, it'd be $103.50 is the credit, not show up.
I think they did it through Public Works, so then I think.
Okay. The 200 is the ceiling on the, but you don't necessarily hit the ceiling with the credit amount. If you go into the $300 amount in terms of what the credit could be, it's capped at 200, and so that just, it's a way to just provide some cutoff and finality, and maybe some cost certainty to this.
Well, yeah, it's Public Works may grant a credit without the board, because I think that's what we had to do. We had to, as a committee, refer it to the village board to approve it, and that's how that credit was issued on that one, right?
Right, I have to follow the policies.
Right. Policy is committee reviews, village board approves,
And
right?
I always had to deny if it went down the sewer, and I said, you have an appeal opportunity to Public Works. I can't grant you.
Right.
They can.
And so this basically gives
Some
you
guidance to
gives you the
that.
ability to grant up to $200 credit one time.
That and some guidance to the board that, oh, okay, here's a guidebook to help us do this, not spitballing every time somebody comes in. And well, I think I should have a $700 credit. Well.
How many times does this happen?
Once, I don't know.
Maybe 2 times a year,
Okay.
not very often.
This could open the door to it, right?
Well, it's one time. Your one and only time, and.
How many residents do we have in the village?
Honestly, it's people that are trying to, you know.
Right now, it's not listed as a one-time credit in your ordinance, so.
Well, it's subject to village board approval. Right now, it's,
It is.
everything is, it's
Yeah.
subject to.
And
approval.
this is still also subject potentially to, the village does not have to issue the credit if the evidence isn't there supporting the credit.
Well, it says, you will only issue the credit if the customer has not previously received a credit.
Look up at the first paragraph.
Okay.
The village may, at its sole and absolute discretion, issue a sewer credit when the village has a reasonable belief on verified documented facts that a leak of previously unknown origin occurred but was later discovered.
Well, we currently have that now.
Well, it's underlined, I think that's
The
new.
new stuff is underlined. The strikeout is the old ordinance.
Right. But forgive me.
That's being deleted, and then right now, there's no, and the discussion back in May was focused on, let's put some limits on, potentially create some efficiencies, but also have it as a one-time lifetime credit. So that's what the ordinance revision does, is also includes it. It says it's a one-time credit, so.
And when I say residents, I meant how many connections do we have? Huh?
1,200.
Okay.
Roughly.
And it's defined as a sewer user. At that property.
Right, 10 minutes.
You have further questions or comments on that one, Donnie? Because I know that's. And I'm not saying it's unimportant to anyone else. I know it's something that you've talked about, so I want.
Well, and for the board's purpose, I mean, we talked about this and you know, right now, as it currently stands, any resident, if they can prove that water didn't go down the sewer, can contact the commission, the Public Works Commission, and appeal to them for a credit.
Well, that
Right?
can't be entirely true. No.
Yeah, it is.
No, it can't be though, because I can hook up a hose to my outlet and go water my grass. I guarantee none of it went down the drain, but I'm still paying for it.
But I'm saying you could
This is
ask,
this is sewer, not
Not
water use.
Right, but the way that that was phrased, or the way that it's put in there, is saying that if you can guarantee that the water didn't go down the drain, then you can come in and claim a credit, which is absolutely not true.
well, it's, but it's subject to, it's subject to the board's appeal to the board, and the board needs to review that. And they would decide and recommend to the committee would recommend to the village board whether or not a credit should be allocated. That's current language.
So this involves a situation where the metering for the water going outside of the home goes into the village's sewage system. And there might be a leak in or a running toilet in the basement. And if it's running, and it's going out, that's getting metered, that's getting billed. It's not just the water going in, what's going out. And so what this credit does is if you have that leaky toilet that you had no idea about, that's the situation. It's not a watering the lawn situation. Does that
Gotcha.
Okay.
So are you happy with the language, Donnie? I guess that's the question.
Still,
Or you want to be consulted, is that the part of it? Is that-
well, I was just wondering, because it says it's appeal of Public Works Director, decision being made to Public Works Committee and Village Board within 30 days, you're taking that out. So it's, you know, I think we talked about this, it's all gonna have to fall on, now we have to have a file of the 1,200 residents of who all has requested this,
It would be in their account history.
right?
Mhm.
Okay, so
So you don't have to, the account would keep track of it.
So that
The
does, it
utility
does keep
account.
track, okay, because
Mhm.
that was discussed too about how we're gonna keep track of it and everything, so. Is 200 the number?
My water bill's usually like $60 for.
Right, but here's the thing, if you leave for a weekend, and your toilet runs all weekend, and you come back and you got a $500 bill, right? And you're saying, well, it's normally 600, you're only gonna get a $200 credit. That's what I'm trying to point out here. Is $200 gonna be the right number?
Yeah, enough to actually help out people like we're trying.
Or
the
can there
intent
be-
Of this credit is.
Well, because when you put it in there, then can there be village board approval for appeal over that 200? That's my question.
I think the 200 was just the guideline, I mean, do we bump it up to 500?
I don't know, I'm just
And
asking.
then,
a
or
question.
50%?
So I think
That's what my point was.
Yeah, if you put in a higher number, I really think you should look at what could the potential impact be here. You know, and where, you know, where is that gonna come out of your water and sewer budget?
Mhm.
Well, either way, we get to review it.
No, you don't get to review it, that's the point, is
Well,
that this is,
I would think it would have to get full board approval.
So-
right, for anything above X amount of dollars.
that's what I'm asking.
Are you good with that?
That's what I'm asking
They're
is that,
no.
okay, we put a $200 threshold in there, but if somebody does have that, and it happens twice a year, that they can go and they can actually appeal. You still got the language in there right now that the guy can say, hey, listen, I didn't know this was happening, and the board can look at it and say, you know what, we understand that, and we'll grant you, you know, a credit. In the books here, right?
Not entirely,
Huh?
Well,
not entirely.
so how it works is it goes to Bob
Denies it.
denies it and kick it up to the Public Works Committee. Public Works Committee sends it to Village Board. With this ordinance, what it says is it goes to the Public Works Director,
He
and
approves.
if it's under a certain amount, he can approve it without having to come to the Village Board for it.
What's that initial threshold dollar amount?
It's less than 500% above the normal monthly usage calculated over the previous 12 months.
So let's just use BK. as
Where the heck
$60.
is it?
So
Second
500% would be 300, right?
Mhm.
50%.
50%.
No.
Just 500. Right in the middle of the earth there.
So yeah, that's, you know, if it's you know, if it's a $30 monthly water bill, you know, then you're within that $200 cap, right? If it's goes up to, it's a $30 water bill and it's a $200 charge, then that's when you need to bring it to the village board, and the village board could say, okay, we're gonna issue you the credit.
So it's not based on on a dollar amount, it's based on
Percentage.
the math and the dollar amount following whatever formula that we're gonna implement.
Mhm.
Is there a dollar amount that is that $200 non-negotiable? So in other words, Donnie brings up an interesting point. Look, somebody has something happen, they come to Bob kicks it to Public Works and the board. Do we have the ability to be able to give something like that that's over $200?
As the ordinance, as the draft ordinance is put together, the $200 is the ceiling and the cap.
So the answer would be no, right?
And there's no other, you know, remedy, yeah, within your ordinance or within the draft ordinance.
So the question is, do you feel like strongly enough about this that there needs to be?
Well,
Well, I guess from the standpoint of, if we have it twice a year-ish, do you have any rough idea how much these people were, it happened that these people were over?
well, last one was over 200.
It's pretty substantial. Obviously.
Last one was over 200. I know that.
I know I had a lawn faucet that was spraying for 2 months. And I
I'll
didn't
say
realize
their
it.
average usage was $5,000 and they get a $25,000 consumption, so it's not 5 times. And they get their monthly bill. It's fine. So, it's pretty substantial.
So the question is, Donnie, if the language needs to include
An appeal to the board.
some kind of.
I'd be fine with the 200, but I'd like to have language that if it's over that they still can appeal to Public Works and the board. You can grant the credit for 200 if they're happy with that, great, but if it's more than that, they still have the right to appeal to the board for final consideration.
But it's there, I think the language would have to include something like full board approval for that.
Sure,
That would
it's
have
in
to
there
be
already.
voted on, right?
Yeah, it would be more.
It was just scrapped out.
Well, I think what would happen is we just scrap a lot of this, we just make it a one-time credit, and then you leave your current language in there that says they can appeal the Public Works Director's decision. I think it was to have a little bit of
That's what I'm saying, is that
of guideposts on this. I think that was the discussion in May, was to have some guideposts and have some limits.
I'm perfectly fine with
So,
$200 that, you know, Bob gets a call and says, hey, $200, yeah, sure, no problem. We can do this. This is within my authority. Anything over and above that, it's gotta go to committee.
Yeah, this is a complete policy call for the village board, so whichever way you want the ordinance to go, draft the language to reflect that. So
Go put the caveat in there for board approval, track. add that to
Anything
draft.
over and above that would require committee and board approval.
Anything over 200 require committee and board approvals.
So, all right, take that adjustment, put it up in the that 50% 200 amount, put that in
You
the
okay with
Public
that?
Works discretion,
You okay with that?
I'm fine with that.
and then appeal if amount higher.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, we're at 19 minutes, 20 seconds.
I'll Donnie, I'll shoot you a copy of that. So you can review it ahead of time, and then if you have questions, then we can chat about it.
We can,
Full board too.
Oh, yeah.
Full board.
No, I'm just to make sure it's what you're intending
Okay.
before we send it out to the full board.
Thank you.
Yep.
okay. That was
All
mine.
right, you were rolling in 14 minutes. I didn't stop it.
All right, next up, we'll go to new business discussion. Possible approval, we do
Yeah,
Riverdale Dam and floodplain mapping review proposal.
Yeah, so, is everyone familiar with the Riverdale Dam on Sea?
Yeah.
It's upstream of the village here.
Yeah, but they've been actually doing a lot of work on it recently, past years, so I think.
Yeah, and they just commissioned, the DNR commissioned a dam failure analysis. And based on the results of that study, the dam was assigned a hazard rating of high hazard. And they've modeled some scenarios of what would happen, you know, if the dam breaks. And what they're asking, they've got a draft of this study done, and they're asking for village comments by the 15th of December. So that's why it's coming in front of this board for possible approval at this time.
Can we approve something like that right now?
This is, it's fine right now.
And I don't know if well, cut to the chase, the dollar amount is $3,500. I don't know if that can be done administratively, generally. I think
$3,500 to fix.
no. So what we're seeking approval of is, what we're recommending is you have us obtain the model and the GIS mapping from the DNR, and we review what was done and how the flood elevations will change, you know, due to the various, you know, typically the 3 modeling scenarios that they do. And then we'll review, you know, the outcome of that to basically establish the flood elevations and the impacts of the village. So you'll know what, if any, buildings will get inundated as a result of any potential failure. And then, you know, basically report back to the village.
And then
What we
change
would
the
do.
maps, update the maps.
Yeah, and update the maps. So we can have that.
I don't, is there a map in this package?
You know, she,
So we're not.
You're looking for public comment or specifically.
well, the DNR wants the village to comment
On what?
on their modeling. And
And
so that would,
Wants to comment on it.
That's-
well, they want,
We would hire them to
Okay.
review
water,
and provide a comment.
we would have a water resource.
Oh, MSA
do
would
this.
give the comment for us.
Yes,
What's that gonna cost us?
3,500.
3,500
Yeah.
to give a comment.
How about 3,000?
Well, then, to review the maps, do the comments, and update the map.
They would update the maps too.
And then so you would know what, if anything gets inundated as a result of these failures, and so you can do proper planning in the future and make sure somebody doesn't build in a location that could potentially be flooded.
So, dumb question.
Throw $500
Why don't
in on
they
a
just
Christmas
fix
party, you got a deal.
It's still, you know,
Think to negotiate.
it's, you know, they have to plan, it's been determined to be a high hazard bridge, whatever that
No,
means.
I
So
heard
it's
that.
probably gonna fail.
So
Okay.
is
No,
there a
it's a-
scale, no hazard, low hazard,
They have been fixing it, right?
unreasonable hazard, high hazard, catastrophic hazard?
You know, it's kind of like your bridge here, your bridge is fractured critical. And as a result of that bridge being fractured critical, it has, you have to pay for it to be inspected by a qualified person every other year. And similar with this being a high hazard dam, I'm sure there are some caveats that they have to inspect it at a more frequent interval and, you know, do some of those things.
It's basically a title with or a classification.
Classification.
Like the classification.
Yeah.
Hey, how long is it gonna take for you to offer comment and update those? maps?
8 days.
8 days.
You could- you got
We have 8 days to do it.
The community has 8 days from right now. Comment. That's it.
What happens if we,
I didn't say he's gotta spend 8 days on it. I asked how long it will take for him to update the maps and provide this. You know, couple days.
It's like 3 days worth of work. It'll be various people doing it, but we have GIS folks getting involved, modeling folks getting involved, you know, and you know, reviewing it.
so this is going to take effect into what permits we can issue and things like that, so.
Well, we don't, right now, you don't have a good handle on what would be flooded, right?
I have no clue.
And so this is, you know, making sure that we understand that and your GIS maps reflect that accordingly.
But why is that important today when it wasn't last week?
Because they've
Because an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
done the modeling and they say, hey, we've done the modeling. please review.
Well, so the first thing I heard when you started down this road was your dam is a high,
What do they call it?
they call it high risk,
High hazard,
high hazard.
yes. So they. Earlier this year is when they commissioned that analysis. And that's the first I've heard of it. And so now they've completed that, and because it impacts, because it's a high hazard. And you know, it's upstream of your community, and they've modeled it and they said, here it is. You know, review and comment. That till December 15th.
Is this gonna be required by us as a municipality for people's property insurance, flood insurance, anything like that?
You know,
Am I asking dumb questions?
well, I mean, it would, you know, it may impact people's property and the fact that if it's shown, if the current model showed, you know, potentially being inundated, that could be a problem.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe based on a review, we find something that's not quite correct, and we actually recommend they remodel it, and a portion of land is
So-
taken out of the shape.
Looking at this, what actually affects the village? A lot of this is like town. Outside of the village.
What he's saying is the reservoir sits upstream from us.
Yeah.
If that dam breaks and all that water comes down at one time,
The floodplain. is
Yeah, but if you look
shaded,
at
right?
if you look at the map, and the parts that are actually in the village, it doesn't look like we're really open to a whole lot of risk.
So,
Whereas the township, like the town, like, yeah, it doesn't look very good for the town, but as far as for the village, and I would feel horrible for the town. But
You're only concerned about the village.
so
So my question is, what, if it only affects that, why would we need public comment if we say, well, hey,
There's no public comment.
I mean, the comment from the village, you said,
and what report do we
you
give
know,
them?
why do we have to sit, you
what
know?
do we ask it? I mean, I don't understand the.
Live
Let
by
me
your terms.
explain it real quick.
Please.
What the report that they came up with has got data and they're showing you where the flood would occur if there's a dam failure. What they're asking is for us to confirm or argue that we don't think that your findings are correct. So basically, it's asking, you know, the GIS and our water resource team from MSA to look at that data and say, yeah, we concur with what you have here. No, we're not agreeing with you. And that's the biggest, I think, biggest part of it on the comment side of things that maybe you're not.
So whether they're right or wrong, it doesn't really matter, I guess, it
So-
doesn't affect the village.
Well, if there's something that they miscalculated, that's why they want some oversight to say, do you have any comments on this? That's why we want at least the due diligence to look at this. Because, well, you know, we were planning on putting something down in Village Park, this map didn't show up, well.
What are we paying for?
something else.
35, what costs $3,500 in this transaction? So what's tangible?
MSA.
What's tangible is we will get their model, we'll get their GIS information. We'll review all of their scenarios, right? To make sure, to figure out, you know, so we can concur or refute what their findings are. You know, we would look at how it's impacting the village and what portions of it and what potential, what structures, some of those things are being impacted. You know, and then we report that back, and then we'd update your GIS models. So you have good, accurate information in your GIS system.
When was that dam built? Do you know?
Long time ago,
Yeah, it's pretty old.
long time ago.
Like,
So
It's been
updated. This is probably the first analysis they've done ever. That would be my guess, yeah. And, you know, again, so they're asking for, hey, review and comment. If you want to comment, you can. But we're saying you should do the review and the comment, but also assess how it's going to impact you and then update your information.
but this,
So when properties do develop along that river, we can say, hey, you know, it's gonna go once, right?
this is basically when you say public comment, this is MSA comment.
Does the village,
Not-
On behalf of the village.
does the township have to comment on this as well?
They, I'm sure I'm sure they'll get the option to, yes.
Can't
They'll,
we work on a response with them? And get like a bulk deal or something?
you know, that, I don't know what their plans are. They're meeting probably right now.
The town.
Bob, is this
Well,
something-
they're got more land that's involved with this, we're
Yeah.
paying more money probably.
I would strongly recommend it.
Okay.
Just so we know.
I think it hasn't been good, we should probably do it.
How often has this gotta happen?
It should be a one-time deal. You know,
Well, you know, like you said, with the fractured critical bridge, it's gotta be inspected, but this thing being a high deal, is this gonna be something that we're gonna have to deal with?
well, I can find out what the DNR's plan, what that high hazard definition is and report back to you saying. Cause I'm just assuming it's gonna be inspected more regularly or maintained to a.
Well, we'll.
But I mean,
We won't have the $3,500 again because what this is to say this is how it's gonna impact us. So regardless of what the
Well,
state.
unless they
of it
change
is-
their theory and want a more comment again and. we're-
Right, but that's, we already said we're going through that data and verifying that data, so if we say the data is correct.
You know, and if it's, you know, it's taken to an extreme, you know, it's really gonna. Really harm the village, we can come back and make that our comments too and say, you know, this is. Extremely impactful and,
See, I have no
You know-
problem doing it one time,
no,
2 years down the road saying, well, you know, they changed the way they looked at this stuff and we want to look at this one more time and say, well, what's changed? Because we'd like to see what has changed and determine whether or not we spend the money to.
Well, there's only gonna be
look at
so
it
much
again.
water, right? We're only figuring that what they're showing the dam breaking is all of the water, that's as high as it's ever gonna get. Right, so we
Yeah.
shouldn't have to refigure what area is gonna be damaged, once we figure out how much water is gonna go through there, I mean.
yeah,
It should just be the map.
it's a one-time deal, You know, unless something changes upstream, but they don't put dams in anymore. They remove them, but they don't,
DNR owns that dam or built that dam or?
presumably,
Excel Energy.
That dam.
Excel Energy,
but
because they're the ones doing the work, they think they own the property around it. Yes.
So, not that it matters, but who's financially responsible to maintain it and to remodel it for?
presumably it's Excel's dam that, you know,
Definitely not us.
yeah. Not you.
Taxpayers anyway.
They're not-
We got- we're at
Not like the
13
bridge,
minutes.
they can't. get that
We
back.
got one more minute.
Yeah.
No, but they own a dam that we're gonna spend $3,500 on worst case scenario for.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say, someone else has gotta be assessing this, like the.
Apparently not.
Gotta be assessing it.
Well,
Are we collaborate with them at all on something like this? No.
Was this put in our budget?
No,
it was unbeknownst to anyone.
Yeah, we didn't ask for us to come. It was.
Can we review it next year?
Oh, I didn't even know you're.
Well, I mean, next year's a month away.
That's what I'm
Can't
saying.
we just tell them now?
We'll put it up.
the deadline is this year.
Huh?
The deadline is this year.
I mean, you,
Where are we gonna?
you can choose not to comment, but then,
Can choose.
I mean, this is the time to comment if you're ever gonna comment. And this would be the time to
But what if we said,
increase your GIS and your accuracy of your stuff too.
Basically, this is saying how much we think it's gonna impact. They're saying how much they think it's gonna impact us. We get the opportunity now to agree or disagree.
So
If we say nothing, then basically if it impacts us less than that, or we think it's gonna be more than that, it doesn't more. There's no, I mean, I don't know what the harm is to us other than it's, hey, you guys didn't think this through, you didn't do anything on it. We're not covered for anything beyond that, right?
I just can't, without review, I can't say, yeah, you're okay, or you know, it's gonna be really.
Be nice to budget for it.
Well, I guess from the standpoint of what I'm getting at is if it says you have 100 feet in this area that we think it's gonna be. And if we go through and do calculation, you look at the stuff and you come back and say, no, we think it's 150. So if we don't do that and it goes to 150, what's the impact to us or to the residents of the village?
No.
So if it actually hits that, it does fly, goes to 150.
I
how
just,
far off do we think the DNR is gonna be? How far off? Like, we're gonna be off maybe like 6 inches of water, maybe, like, they're not gonna be off like 5 feet. I say the comment is just, okay, looks good, we saved $3,500.
well, it sounds like, are they gonna show it to us unless we pay them? Until after the
Well,
15th?
they'll finalize the model and that'll be the model that they use.
So.
Well, so if
let's
it's wrong,
for the
can we
sake
sue
of
'em?
Conversation, if we disagree, BK says we don't like your line here, right? We send you to go back and present a case in the, in that
Redraw the
kind of
line.
realm, yeah, to
Well, no,
redraw.
what we'll do is we'll say. You know, we don't. You know, we have an issue with these assumptions, or we have. More accurate information, and then they'll take those comments and, you know. Presumably we'll have something to back that up with, and they'll modify their model, or. There'll be a back and forth, and then, and then,
The way I see it, look, if we have more accurate information, then we don't need them, right? If we don't have more accurate information, then we're gonna get the stuff anyway, right? I personally, and again, I'm limited, I can't see a scenario where this hurts if we don't do it.
I say we put forth no comment. And we don't spend the $3,500. Because we have to decide right now, right?
No.
Because
Do we have to
gonna
decide right now today?
Yeah, because we're not.
Otherwise,
It's not budgeted in.
I guess what,
Committee recommendation, all right?
well, what I'm looking at from the standpoint of how I'm looking at it is wondering where's the negative or the positive for us with approving it. I'm thinking, and tell me if I'm wrong or not, is if we're looking at allowing building along that area. And it ends up being a floodplain that we could or couldn't predict, or whatever on there. Is that where it impacts us? Where is this? How does this impact us? What does that? The review get us? We don't necessarily have the data. We have the stuff they have. We don't have anything better than we have to have.
Doug, look at that map. Show them the map. There's not much of village that is at risk. There really isn't a ton. Of anywhere that we could build anything that is really at risk in the village.
What if the village expands? What if there's more land along there that annexed into?
Like
village?
the land that we're gonna give away for free.
Hey, we.
Wrong end of the village.
Oh, all right, yeah,
but,
sorry.
I mean, there's, that's. You're looking at downstream of the dam, and we're.
Oh, yeah, we're at 14
travels,
minutes. We're past, but we have to decide now,
Right.
but we have to decide.
I'm
I
agnostic on it, whatever anybody thinks we should
how do we
do.
decide a vote?
I
Well,
don't
you get-
think that
And if
30,
someone makes a motion either to go forward with it or not.
I don't think.
I make a motion to
$3,500
not move forward with getting the
Totally
proposal
second.
from MSA.
Any further comments or discussion?
I think that's, if this thing has been in the planning for some time where they had this and it's kind of come up out of the blue, like. We would have been able to budget for it. I can't see spending the money out of our budget that we don't have. That's my opinion. Especially if it's impact on it, so.
Chris,
I think it hasn't been done. I think it should be. Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think from the standpoint of it is a small investment, but it's something that gives us a little bit of information. Now we have solid data that we've confirmed versus relying on their model. I don't think it hurts to have us do that, but yes, we can put it up to a vote. Any further comments? All right. All those. How do you want to say all those?
You never do a negative like that, right?
Well, the motion is
No, it's
to,
a
the
motion
motion is to
to
add no
deny.
comment, so
Right.
all in favor of adding no comment would be.
So. Motion to deny the cost and no comment. Is seconded. It's up for the vote, so if you vote in favor of this motion, it'll be the.
Not move forward.
Not move forward.
All in favor of the motion to not move forward with the review proposal, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nay. 3-2, motion passes to not move forward. Okay, next up, discussion, third-party League of Municipalities, legal opinion, trustee residency.
We're open for public comment.
No, not at, well, that was, we had that at other points for public comment.
At which point would I have been able to?
But so we discussed early in the meeting that we could have done it at any of the 3 other spots that we could have done that. And we did say that before Public Works that we could cover it for any topic.
It was my understanding under each of the things you could do it as late Anders said it.
As we have for each of the individual departments, because those, the new business and the unfinished are under each individual departments as well.
Which department would that have been on that I really?
That would have been maybe a finance personnel,
Mhm.
but it could have been covered under any of the three that we, as we talked about in the very first time.
And this issue might get resolved if the board has questions. Okay? All right.
So if someone has questions to ask you, they can do that at that time.
I was just wondering,
Yeah.
who brought it, put it on the agenda? First of all, before, sorry, to learn how this got on the agenda.
So let's would you like me to introduce this one?
Please.
Sure. So there, first, this item was put on the agenda because the League of Municipalities will provide advisory opinions to municipal clients. Because this is one of those areas that may be sensitive. I think it was put on last week. And then over the weekend, the board and myself got an email from Mr. Cappers alleging some type of personal bias. Well, I think that just further justifies the potential to seek a third-party opinion from the league on whether Mr. Cappers would be considered a resident under Wisconsin's requirements that you be a resident elector to serve on the village board. To first address one of the issues that was raised in the email, though, which is, does he even need to be a resident to get appointed to the village board? Let me just do a handout here for the board. So in the email, the board, Mr. Cappers questioned whether this was an appointed position that, where he doesn't need to be a resident, or essentially he was making the argument that because he'd be appointed to the village trustee position, that he doesn't need to be a resident. So I even asked about the residency question. I think that's a fair summary.
I guess, can you repeat that as far as?
So you argue that under state law, you don't need to be a resident to be appointed to a vacant trustee position.
Correct, but I already approved residency before.
So you said you didn't need to be a resident to be appointed. So Mr. Cappers did cite to the League of Municipalities FAQ number 5. And you see what he quoted for the board in support of his argument. What I've included in your packet is what is the entire FAQ. And Mr. Cappers left off that last part of the FAQ that says a person appointed to fill a vacancy in an elective office, which would be a village trustee position, must meet the residency qualification applicable to elective municipal officers.
So what is that?
That means that if you're going to be appointed to a village trustee position that's vacant, you have to be a resident.
Okay.
So
The resident of the
village.
okay.
Yeah. So that was left off the he quoted everything else in the FAQ except the one thing that disagreed with it. But I just wanted to set the legal record straight that you do need to be the village resident to be appointed to be a village trustee in a vacant seat. So with that issue decided, in terms of the legal requirements to be a resident, then the board is tasked with, if there is a question about his residency.
Is there a question of his residency of this board?
Yes.
There are several issues of people on both sides of this, right?
That's why I'm asking the question,
Now-
because I think it's pertinent to get it all out here. What, is there a question of his residency? I heard yes. What's the question of his residency?
So in terms of the questions on the residency, the board determines the qualifications of its members. But rather than, normally the board would ask me for
The board
a
determines.
written,
Where's it?
normally the board would, might ask me for a legal opinion. What is your thoughts on the law and the facts? And is Mr. Cappers a resident? The league is offered to provide an advisory opinion that takes me away from it. Mr. Cappers has alleged I'm personally biased against him,
Correct.
and I'm not. We've had our, unfortunately, I've had to send you letters over the years in our 10, 12 plus years of representing the village, and we don't need to get into that because that has nothing to do with whether you're a resident or not.
Well,
And so-
that you put this on the agenda and then you checked into the League of Municipalities.
Mike,
So
No one called them.
I think, especially again with being accused of having a personal bias, putting the suggestion that you get an advisory opinion from a third party seems like a pretty decent idea and actually a pretty unbiased thing to do rather than chime in and issue an entire opinion to the board. I guess Mr. Cappers feels differently, but right now, you as the board, that's on the agenda. And if you're seeking an opinion on the residency issue, paying into a potential appointment, I can provide it. I don't have to provide any opinion. You guys can decide it.
What's
You
the
can
current-
see, you can get the league to
What's the
issue an
current
advisory
ordinance on it?
opinion.
What is the current, I'll ask you, what current ordinance on residency of for elected position for the, because it says here, it says, a person appointed to fill a vacancy of elected office must meet the resident qualification applicable to elected municipal officers, right? So that would be,
State law,
they have to be a resident of the village, right?
state law requires you be a resident to be a village trustee. in
Right.
that village.
So what is residency, right?
And that's the question, and I'm going to not provide
I mean,
an opinion to
what-
the board on that right
right.
now.
But what's the question of, the board is raising the question, right? Or I'm hearing that there is question of that there's not a residency. Right? That's what I'm hearing. There's questions of this individual's residency. So
What would
if-
your term for a resident? be?
I'm trying to figure out what the legal aspect of a residency is. And what the ordinance would say of what a legal what a residency is.
There's two terms, right? When I dug around on the interweb that apply to this. There's residence
Mhm.
and there's domicile. And from a legal perspective, there's significant difference between those two, right? That's
I don't know. I guess that's the question.
that's just a statement.
Mhm.
Right? So if a domicile is, and I didn't print it out, but if a domicile is something to the effect of, this is my home, this is where I will always come back to, this is where I sleep at night, this is, right? This is where I spend X% of my time. I think it was 80+% of my time, right? I think that's the number anyways. All I'm saying is that's a domicile.
Is
right?
there a
Doesn't
legal,
mean you can't
is there a
live
legal
somewhere else.
definition of that?
There are cases, there are statutes that help define whether one is a resident or not.
What are those statutes?
It depends on the facts of the facts and the circumstances, and that's where, before I issue an opinion, I want to put that in writing.
Well, I'm just trying to
Yeah.
figure out what the Wisconsin statutes are. I'm not asking for you to issue an opinion. I want to know what the Wisconsin statute is, and I'll read it myself.
Sure, well, there are a lot of cases. There are statutes that define the residency requirements in terms of whether one is a resident elector and how you determine that intent. I can't name them off the top of my head. So that's why, again, the question is, does the board, would the board like a legal opinion on this residency question? The factors that are considered in a residency determination? I thought the League of Municipalities might be a nice option for the board to create a bit of a buffer. So
Well, I remember when Shed was it, I can't remember her name, but gal that was on, she's she moved out of the town, she had to get off of the board.
Is that Annie?
Yeah,
Annie?
Annie, so when Annie moved off. Out of the town, she had to get off board, paying taxes in town. It's our ordinances clearly state that you can't operate and
State statute says that when you are no longer a resident
Okay.
in the elective office, you vacate that.
Sure,
Yeah.
so
that's, yeah,
so then the issue really comes up, there's questioning of whether or not you're a resident, right? And so the question is then, what is a resident? Is a resident a person, that's what I'm asking. You said there's a state statute of a resident?
there are factors that you look at that help determine whether someone is a resident elector. Whether someone's qualified to be a trustee, because you have to be a resident elector to be a trustee. And so there are also cases as well. And again, what is a resident? That's where I thought an advisory opinion from a third party, like the League of Municipalities, made sense for the village if you want to go that route. So I put it on the agenda to give you that option in case someone had questions. So it's an option for the board. You can say, yep, get in contact with the league. Have them issue an advisory opinion. You can say, no, we don't want that. We don't want any opinion. You can say, honors, we'd like your opinion. I don't care. It's your call.
I'm just trying to get the statute. If you could give me the state statutes of what a legal residency is within a municipality, that's what I would like to know.
Okay.
So I would like to see what that exact statute is, and I'll read it for myself once I see that.
I think it'd be good for us to do a third party, just because then it's not someone's opinion in here.
I think we're opening Pandora's box.
Well, I don't know that it is. I think it's,
I'm interested, why?
Well, because we haven't questioned this ever.
well, we haven't had a situation where someone's.
But nobody has put forth a reason to question the residency. Now, if you can say, we want to question the residency because of X and get this opinion, but instead we're kind of dancing around this thing. Somebody questioned the residency. What is the reason for questioning the residency? We didn't question your residency. We didn't question my residency. We didn't question your residency.
So
And now we're questioning residencies of individuals that are running on the board, and I'm concerned about that.
What?
Or that are asking to be on the board. If you got a problem with that, the residency, then by all means, tell me what your concern is about the residency.
So I guess the reason why it probably didn't come up when we were doing this is we all live in the village, have one house where we live at. Our kids go to school here.
I got two houses.
Do your kids go to school here?
Yeah,
Okay. So,
but I got two houses.
right,
Are they both in the village?
No,
Okay, so the question is, right?
but if my children didn't go to school in this municipality, does that excommunicate me from being on a?
What
Okay,
would
then
bring it
school.
in?
But I vote in this village,
But,
right?
but if
I'm
your kid-
registered to vote in this
Where's
village.
your, and I guess I don't care where your place is. If your kids went to school in your other residency, say if you lived in your other houses in, watch, I don't.
What would that have to do with me being where I live and where I vote?
sure, that's just an example. I'm not saying that needs to be a criteria for success, but I'm just saying that's the reason you were asking why that didn't come, why the question didn't come up when we were put before the board. I mean, it's easy when there's only one residence and everything is being done from that one place. So that's why the question didn't come up.
And that's the only reason I'm saying that, because I got two residences. I got two houses. I got a farm in Wausau and I got one over here, and I'm looking to buy one in Columbia too. But what does that have to do with me being on this board and my ability to be able to be sitting in an elective office here?
So why do you choose why
Because I'm voting in
on this board instead of serve on Wausau? Why don't you serve on the Wausau board?
Haven't got that far yet. I could.
But wouldn't it make sense for you, so you serve on the board in the town where your main residence, where you live?
Where I
you
vote,
sleep,
where I vote.
where you sleep, where you vote,
Where I vote.
would you say you spend most of the time at this residence here as opposed to the one in Wausau?
Well, I spend both in there. I go there quite.
Right, but you spend it, but obviously you spend more time at the one in Somerset because you vote here and you.
Yep.
Your kids go to school here.
I'm
Not saying that
registered-
That's it, not saying that
Registered to
that's it.
vote here, but I'd leave my kids out of this because that's.
Right,
You know,
sure.
I
Get kids out of
I
it.
can clear, I can clear
this up. I can clear this up if somebody will let me.
I think, I'll say what I say and you can go. There was discussion early on, and I only saw it online, right? I didn't put it up there. Mike put it up, somebody put it up there, maybe it wasn't, somebody put it up there, right? And it was, I'm gonna run for village board. I went and I registered to vote, and then it was, I'm gonna rent a garage from somebody so I can have an address in the village. And then it was, I can live at the campground, right? There was a whole bunch of stuff that was floating around. Again, not saying it was all you. I'm not saying it was all you. I'm just saying that this was the kind of stuff that was floating around, right? So you asked about residency, right? When all of that precludes a question of, hey, am I a resident of the village, right? Be like, okay, well, which place are we talking about? And why is that take precedence or priority over a house in Minnesota or a restaurant up here or somebody else's duplex over here, right? Like, so there are naturally a bunch of questions. And those questions come from all over the community, right? They come, and I see some stuff online. I don't see a lot, but I see enough, right? So the question now becomes, because anything we do is going to be very polarizing, right? So the question becomes, who gets to make that decision, right? It's already been proposed that Anders has issued, right? So if that's who we're going to have make the decision, then there's going to be questions. So we go with.
I just want to clarify, I do not make the decision, the board votes.
Correct, yeah, my bad. So if we go to a third party, right, they render a decision and then it's done. I don't know why anybody would have an issue.
Well, and even then it wouldn't be done, it would be.
Oh, sorry.
It's an advisory opinion. The board can look at it and it's discussions on the issue can say, oh, okay, we're looking at X, Y, and we think he's a resident, we'll appoint him. It can look at it and again, I don't know what the advisory opinion will say. I wouldn't write it.
Right, but
Can we hear it? Yeah, sorry.
On October 15th, before I decided to even think about running, I made sure everything was on the up and up. I called the Wisconsin Election Commission, who I've had numerous conversations over the years when we went through the recall process. The guy that runs the Wisconsin Election Commission, his name is Riley. I explained my situation. I explained that I have an address, a property that I currently live at is my primary residence in the township. I said I have a apartment above my business in the village. And I also bought a property in Stillwater because my kids wanted to go to school there. And especially since this I've spent well over 50% of the time living in my apartment because I didn't want this to be an issue, but Riley said it doesn't matter. Politicians, I'm trying to get dry mouth here, but politicians have properties all over the country and all over the world. It doesn't matter so much where you spend the majority of your time. You have to spend some time there, but it matters where you register to vote. And this is the Wisconsin Election Commission. This isn't me just making this up, but so I don't know how much you see me in town and whatever, but I'm here all day, every day, and most of my nights are spent here in the village because this should be an issue.
Where are your kids at? I'm sorry, where are your kids at when you're here?
What does that matter?
Well, I mean, if the kids are going to school in Stillwater, right, and you're here.
They're either at sports or with their mom or with they're 10, 11, and 12. They're pretty independent.
But I mean, they're not spending nights by themselves, right?
Sometimes they do, yeah.
But-
And their mom's okay with it, and I'm okay with it, and. But it happens.
So where do you call home?
My primary residence is 260 Main Street in the village of Somerset.
That where you're registered to vote?
Built a brand new house in Stillwater to not.
live
I
there?
didn't build a brand new house. I bought it for my kids because my kids wanted to try a year of school there.
260, what,
Main Street.
and is that your primary, is that where you're registered to vote?
That's where I'm registered to vote. That's where my driver's license is. That's where I pay insurance. That's where.
Why don't you run for Stillwater Town Board?
I don't think that's relevant, Brian, sorry to cut you off.
Sorry.
So I mean, you know, the questions that, you know, the board might have is, when did you start living above Kennedy's?
October 10th.
You know, and,
Actually, it was before that, but I actually started staying there on the frequent before that. It was, my other tenant moved out August 1st. So anytime after August 1st, I was in and out of there staying at certain nights, but.
and then, you know, other questions that, you know, might benefit the board or an advisory opinion. Average, how many nights do you stay there per week?
What difference does that make?
It's something that I think might go into the calculation. I don't know. I'm trying to, you know, I'm trying to.
But
I'm
here's
trying
then you're
you
gonna
don't-
ask me how many times that I'm gonna be staying in Wausau. And to be honest with you, this is none of you guys' business. I'm registered and I pay taxes in this town, in this village. And I vote in this village. And I'm on this board because I was elected to do that, but that what goes on in Wausau, and I'm involved with that too, but I'm not sitting on their board. I'm not asking to be on their board. But where I sleep at night and how much I sleep and stuff, quite frankly, should not make a hill of beans in what the state law says.
Well, I think from a standpoint of the village, in our opinion, and this is our opinion, because in the end, we get to determine who's on it, right? Is what is our individual determination for what a resident is? So from, and this is my opinion.
Well,
What is a resident?
I'm
Yeah,
just,
and I guess
I hear you.
if Mike doesn't want to answer the question, he doesn't have to. It's a question that goes into the overall intent of where you're living, I think.
And you're asking, and the board is trying to determine whether or not, because he lays his head in here, whether or not he's resident. And that's what I'm saying is that it's opening up Pandora's box, because there's a clear law to the fact of what a residency is under the state statutes, right?
Didn't Annie move?
Yes.
And she gave up her village seat because she didn't live in it. She was, wait a minute,
She did, yeah.
she still paid taxes that
No,
year.
no, she didn't.
That year she did.
She
paid
moved
property
her
tax.
residency into, and she registered to vote.
And
And
she could
still-
go up here. I'm
No.
not saying she had to, I'm saying she could have.
no,
stayed.
residency was no longer here. Her residency relocated into another
So
facility.
what defines residency? That's
The
the
state
question,
law,
right?
the state law.
I-
And that's why I'm
I
asking,
think that they were a
is
little
that-
more specific about what they were trying to accomplish when they wrote the ordinances. The bottom line is this, right?
you can't register and vote in a municipality if you're not a resident of that municipality. You can't register in multiple
Apparently.
municipalities.
No,
All you have
that
to
you
do,
can't.
right, is to own property and get a bill there to say that you live there.
You have to be there for a certain amount of time.
Now, how much time is that?
You haven't owned it for 20
So-
days.
So, no, but we
You can only
Okay.
register.
Well,
to
this-
vote
this
one
is
time.
getting out of control.
Hey, folks, all right.
I think it's a legitimate discussion here.
It needs to, yeah, we need to have this
I
conversation.
don't think we're getting out of control. It's a legitimate issue she talked.
Yeah, but I'm trying to keep up and everyone, like, there's too many different conversations.
So I think at the end, right now, I mean, from my standpoint, I'd like us to look at, do we want to have a third party opinion based on the information given? We have the emails, we had the communication that was sent to us, and say, this is what we consider, what they consider, then we can take that and be able to have that information. And say, does this qualify as a residency? Or is there a challenge to it or whatever?
And but what's the parameters of what you're asking, what establishing a residency is what I'm asking. And you're saying, well, let's get a third party opinion on it. What are the parameters that you're asking for them to establish this residency? Is it the legal residency? Is it you know, that's covered under the state law? Is it the residency based on how many days or you stay within a specific, municipality? What are your parameters that you're trying to gauge this opinion on? If it's the legal opinion of what is the legal law, legislative law that says what it is, if it's a legal residence of voting, requirements or whatnot, then let's put that down. If we're gonna ask for that. But right now, all of our residencies, there's nothing that precludes anybody that moves into this town after 28 days and they become registered in this town to be able to run for an office or be appointed to this office, right?
I didn't understand the question.
There's nothing that
I'm sorry.
precludes any individual moving into this town and living in this town for 28 days and be getting registered in this town to vote from being able to hold an elective office.
People can move into the village, become village residents. They can try to run for office. Or they can try to get appointed to office if they are a resident.
And so then the question is, what is a resident?
Are you defining
Right.
a resident
So-
as somebody who's registered to vote?
No, I'm asking what
Because
the legal
there's-
requirement of a resident within a municipality is.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
that's-
asking.
and that-
I've asked
and
the
that-
question several
and
times and I haven't gotten.
And
an
that's why that's the question that would go to the third
So
party.
you don't have a
to-
state
to
law.
help you,
No, and so the
Donnie,
other
Donnie,
purpose of
that's
it, Donnie,
not-
is because we need an unbiased third party, because there's been plenty of stuff, because we're accused of being biased. The board is accused right in the email that we're biased against Mike.
Not the board is being biased. I
no,
know.
you actually said the entire board.
Yeah, you did.
Well,
say the
and
entire
then-
board, so-
And then you,
So that's
and then you question, hold on, and then you question your
You put
charitable
this stuff
work.
on the agenda, so.
You question their charitable work. And then you misrepresented the scope of the league's opinion to the board. And then you capped it off saying that, well, never mind.
that you expect to be appointed. Expect.
So the question is, and Donnie, I'm gonna correct you because I didn't conclude there was no state law on this. There are state statutes and there's case law. And that's where, in terms of interpreting the case law to the facts, it would go to the League of the Municipalities for an advisory opinion, and they would say, okay, he's registered to vote. He lives some undetermined time above his cafe. He's been living there since October.
Well, there's
10.
also a question, though,
It-
right,
it-
of whether.
Their attorney, who represents municipalities across Wisconsin, would provide their opinion and say, based on the case law, based on the facts, based on the statutes, here's where we would probably land on it, one way or the other. And it's that third party that takes me out of the equation.
Well, there was
If the
a
board wants
question
that-
about whether or not that the residence is even a legal residence, right, above the cafe.
I'm not even getting into the conditional use permit discussion.
Oh, no, I was just wondering if that's gonna be part of the whole
Is that still a thing?
conversation, huh?
Is that still a thing?
I'm just asking if it's gonna be questionable as whether or not the apartment is, the 260 Main is a legitimate residence in the
Well,
town.
we'll follow whatever the Wisconsin state law is.
Well, so, I mean, so here's, again, it's kind of a question that, so Mike has said he's been there since October. You know, before that, someone else lived there. Do you remember the timelines on that?
I took over the apartment August 1st. But I've been living there consistently since October.
And somebody was
And
living
then,
there prior
and
to
then,
that.
so you took it over on August first
For years.
you took it over on August 1st from who?
From the previous tenant, Vanica. I can't think of her last name.
Do you recall how long that tenant had been there?
Right around a year and a half.
Okay. And before.
Was she
her-
registered to vote?
And
In that
before her was there,
Probably not.
who was there?
I don't know. Really.
I can't remember.
I
the-
Was it a her?
It's,
Call her.
There's been
Dan.
numerous people over the years.
Oh, was it her?
Hey, guys. Please.
I mean, even the owner of Ann's Cafe, her son lived there for 15 years.
Is, I'm not familiar with name changes. As Ann's Cafe, was that before Kennedy's? It's the same
It was
building.
Everyday Cafe before that, they had tenants, before that,
Well, is it 260 Main Street?
yes.
Okay. So if it's 260 Main Street, if there was anybody registered at 260 Main Street in the legal records of the village that has voted or has registered to vote from 260 Main, then that would be a legitimate residence then, right?
No,
Why?
Why would-
not
no,
every
I'm not
person
sure what you mean by
in the
legitimate
village is
residence.
registered to vote.
No, I'm asking if somebody was registered to vote from that residence, that 260 Main Street. Not saying they had to be, but if they were registered to vote, then that was a legitimate residence.
The being registered to vote and living somewhere versus being in compliance with zoning laws are two different issues, and I don't want to confuse those. with
Well,
this
if they,
discussion.
then they weren't in compliance with zoning laws back then either. If they were, is what I'm trying to point out is that if it was, if somebody was living at 260 Main Street and so over the years, somebody registered to vote from 260 Main Street, then if there's a question of zoning laws,
I
or
think that's a
zoning
different
issues.
question from where we're at right now, though. What this is talking about is simply about do we want to do the third party legal municipalities legal opinion on residency? We have questions about anything as far as if it was zoned properly or anything else, that's beyond the scope of what we're talking about right here. So that is not.
And
an
so
item on the
residency is,
agenda.
and so what's determined as residency is as determined by the state law.
Is what we're looking at to find the opinion of to say, okay. Based off all the stuff that we have in front of us, what do you consider a resident to be? Is it,
What do we consider a resident to be on all of us?
there wasn't a question, I don't think, because no one was out there saying, I live here, I live here, I live here, I spend some time here, but now I'm claiming that I'm a resident here. That I think is what the question was raised about, not because, I mean, I didn't hear anyone else saying that, and I'm not saying that's the only reason, but that's the reason why. If you're saying, yeah, I live here, I bought a house here to claim residency so my kids can go to school there, and now I'm a resident here, do you think that would raise a question? Or that it should? I think it raises a question. I'm not saying it's a preclusion to say that, nope, you absolutely not. I think it's worth getting a third party opinion to say, nope, it's actually not an issue, or yeah, actually there is an issue. Or we feel that there's an issue. That's
Where you at? Unfortunately, I've heard from people as well. And I think the biggest thing that people have a question is that there's no way they would be living here and their kids would be somewhere else. That was the biggest question. That's the only reason that I've heard in the town why that's even question. That's what I've heard.
Can you hear them?
Kinda, I
That's
think,
it.
I
That's
think-
what I've heard through the town and then,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
I bought a property,
Not
I bought a
my-
property over,
that's what I've heard.
I bought a property over in Stillwater because my kids wanted to go to school over there. To do their sports
Mike,
over there, whatever, but
I don't
I'm
care.
still a resident.
That's not my business. I'm just
Vehicle
telling you what
registered
I've
here.
heard.
My insurance is here, my registered
I know.
vote here, everything is still. And I don't get a homestead tax credit over there or anything like that. It's just a
It's none of my
property. that-
business. I'm just telling you what I've heard.
And
If,
and that's why I checked it out with the Wisconsin Election Commission before I even went down this. Because I knew there'd be some question.
so, all right, I think we're good there from that standpoint. So is there anything else that we have on this? I mean, I think we've covered. I guess I would like the rest of our opinions on if we want to do the third party legal. Was there, I think there was, because they represent us, that there's not a
I don't believe,
legal
I don't believe there's
price
an extra cost
since they already represent us.
for the board.
Or that we
to see
belong
it.
belong.
You
We
belong.
belong to.
So
Personally, I
there
like-
is no cost to it.
Correct. So I'd like to see that happen.
Right, I just want this put to bed.
Chris? Yeah. Donnie?
Well, no cost to it. I have no problem as long as I understand, we understand. We're just asking what the interpretation of the law is.
If we're asking their
Not,
opinion.
we're not talking about all the other, what people said and everything else.
Right.
Because I don't care about that. I just want to interpret what the law says and what our responsibilities are.
Donnie, I agree. 100% of the time.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I agree. I think we needed to,
Right.
all the past stuff that's gone on.
So, yeah, I'll reach out to the league.
I agree, it's fine.
And have them, and I'll reach out to the league and have them,
When will they have, you curious on how long that's gonna be before they'll be able to, interpret the legal?
I did not ask that. I didn't want to get into the weeds, but I can get back to you with an update on
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it'd be nice to know when they're gonna get it. Yeah, the biggest thing is not getting it like the day before the meeting or something like that, you know what I mean?
I get that, yep.
We're way over
All right.
14 minutes on
Yep.
that one.
All right,
Well,
so,
Well, I mean,
next item, discussion.
That
Hey,
one-
guys. Hey. All right, let's go on. Discussion donating to Somerset Community Foundation.
Let's get that on there, a couple hundred. Yeah, I didn't.
This came to the village as a request.
Okay.
So I guess if you need a name, it will be me,
Oh,
because it's not budgeted for. They are asking for a gift of whatever amount.
well, get your wallets, guys. Come on.
What is this support? I can be so ignorant as
Mm.
that.
The letters in
The
your
letter
packet,
is
I
in your
think.
packet, but
Okay.
it says that they provide funding to basic for local kids to provide coats and warm clothing for children in need. They support Christ Lutheran Church in their new tent for the Somerset Boys Scout Troop. Somerset Elementary School for their kindness challenge, the music department. For a commission piece, and St. Anne's Catholic School for the Spanish program. It's just a community foundation that.
I'll speak on
supports
behalf
local-
of Christ Lutheran on that.
Luckily she got it, because if I would have opened it, I would have tossed it, because we don't have it budgeted.
Yeah, I'll speak on behalf of what, for Christ Lutheran, they did offer up and they gave the $1,200 to the troops for tents for Troop 144. So they do stuff around in the community. That's why I said, get your wallets out and give them a donation.
Yeah.
Just don't know. if
So
we can do
rather
it to
than
the-
just throwing it away, I thought, well, let's.
We have a little bit of money. I thought we had a little cushion in that budget there. Didn't we have a little surplus there, a couple $100? I thought we talked about that.
We did, huh?
Uh-huh.
Oh, we had to cut
Not
that.
TID,
had
we
to
can't
cut
use
that,
TID
cut
money.
that, cut
Not
that.
TID,
Not
not
TID.
TID. I'm not talking TID. I'm talking about the regular. I thought we had a little.
Well, and this is something maybe we can always
That would
put
be
on.
2023.
We can really put this in my file for the budget for next year and put money aside for that too.
I don't think that's a bad idea at all. think it's
I mean,
good
because I keep a
idea.
budget for getting ready. I put things in my file so we can remind us for the next.
I'm sorry, no, we're just talking about putting it in, looking at it as something as an adder for a budget. next
Because
year.
they gave it to us after our budget.
Yeah, I think we could probably, if we were to do something for the community foundation from this village, the taxpayers, it would be benefiting us locally. So even if it wouldn't be budgeted, we might be able to find the money. Is that what I'm hearing?
Sure.
Okay. So I'd be supportive of giving them at least a couple hundred bucks, 250.
So is that something that we would want to do after the end of the year, once we kind of look through everything, see where we were at?
Yeah, you'd have to let us know where to take it out of. Yeah.
We gotta make a motion.
No,
I think we would want to review that, and it's not, we're not doing the motion like now to do anything, we're not giving anything right now.
Well, maybe we will at the village board meeting.
Well,
yeah.
we should.
Wanna Forward this on to the board.
Yes. I would like to put that on.
Absolutely, right?
Okay, that was less than 14 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, we did. 2 minutes.
Next item.
Donation.
Is discussion state municipality agreement, state highway 35 revision number 2. Is this the one that I
Yes.
looked over the other day?
Yeah, so Bob had to run, pick up his kid, so. Basically. If you want me to speak on this, or are you familiar?
My understanding is that basically the state's just offering to cover some of our costs that we were looking to pay for otherwise, so
So
it's really a
unsolicited-
win for us,
Unsolicited, they say, hey, we're gonna pay more, we'll contribute more towards the sidewalk,
Mhm.
which is great.
Yeah,
so.
so,
Nice,
Money.
yeah,
and Doug already
Nice
signed it, and
negotiating.
it's off.
All right.
So it's just more of an informational, we're getting more money from the state, we're
Oh,
spending
we
less
need
money.
more.
What money we're getting?
It's in there.
Yeah.
Sneak any of that over to the foundation?
No, they, instead of us paying 100%, they're going to pay part of the project.
That's nice.
Is that's in this grant?
That's in
The
the,
highlighted areas are the
Yes.
revisions.
well, mine.
So like the sidewalk, they're gonna pay up to 80% of the shared use cost.
See, this is the great stuff that we need to really get out there to the community too, letting them know, hey, we're, you know, that we managed to get this kind of money and it's gonna help us on our, you know, on our end.
We didn't even have to ask for it. I'm just-
Right, yeah, but we sure can use it and say,
Yeah, maybe if we asked for money, we could start asking for it.
We have to know what's there to ask for.
Right.
so they're, so, with the highlighted,
Yeah, so all the stuff in dark is basically what it changed what they're asking or what they're saying.
are they saying they're gonna give us 5.6 million?
No.
You said
That's how much they're paying for the project, you know, as a whole.
Okay, so how much are they giving us extra?
It's
So they're-
related to the shared use paths. It went from 100% of the sidewalk, like. Andrea was saying to. A shared. amount.
It's 53% state, 47%.
84,000.
And I don't know what it
Yes.
was previously, if it was 100%.
It was 100.
It was 100%, so that's a deal. So they're basically giving you $84,800, or no, yeah, $84,800.
Trying to get,
Yeah.
thank you. So. Nice to see the state of Wisconsin stepping up and writing a check to us.
Yeah, there we go.
We write enough that to them, right? Right, anything else on that?
No, unless there's any question.
Is that gonna be factored into next year's budget then, or what?
No, because next year's budget's already done.
Well, he's
Well-
talking about the standpoint of getting additional funding versus what we have put into that.
We're not getting money, we just have to pay less.
That's
Not
not,
getting money.
Obviously,
we have money.
they're not giving us money, so we don't need to record it in the budget as funds coming in.
No, we were budgeting,
We have fun.
we were budgeting to pay 100% of that is what what I'm asking. And now we're not paying 100% of that, we're getting 84,000 of that.
So
we're
we
not
will
having
pay 84,000 less on our loan,
on the loan.
whichever loan program we go through to cover the cost of that project.
So we're like, well,
So we're-
It'll affect our,
Okay,
debts.
Bear in mind, this is like within, you know, the project, these are all estimates. The project hasn't been bid yet, so, you know, it's within the contingencies.
Big numbers,
So,
well,
numbers.
CYA is a.
Yeah,
as an engineer, well, yeah. we
This
can't
is not,
guarantee this to it.
Well, I think we started, I like it, right? So-
Yes.
All right.
All
All right, next up, department budget reports. Board. I like it, department budget report. Yeah.
so at the committee level, you all would review your time. Just listening.
Todd.
What?
Are you listening? You asked what's it for? So you would normally review your parks, public works budgets at your public works committee meeting, right? And public safety would review this public police and court. And finance would review everything. So that's what this is. Because this is on, instead of having your committee meetings, you are all meeting to discuss. So if you want to review the budget, that's what that is.
Okay,
Okay. You said, what is this for?
you got that now?
stop it.
Simple, yes, no.
Does anyone have any questions or concerns about the department budget reports? Chris or Donnie, as the head of
I didn't. Yes, no. No.
I haven't had a chance to actually go over this one. Take it with me, and if I got any questions, I'll bring it up.
Or you can talk to any of us before.
Sure.
hearing that.
Motion
I
to
will make,
adjourn.
you make, all right, I will second it. First and second on the table, further comments or discussion, and hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion approved, meeting is adjourned at
Wow.
9:49.